All right. Good morning, fight fans, movie fans, and fight movie fans. Thinker St. James here alongside my good friend Chase Parton. This is a special engagement of MMA on Film to talk about the newly released film Beast, now in theaters. Chase, how are you?
I am very good. Obviously, you guys know we saw the movie yesterday. I can't speak for Thinker, but I tell you guys, I worked the whole shift, got off work, went to the wrong theater, and then thankfully they still had the showing going. It's funny. Actually, I'll tell the quick story because it is funny. I was like, man, I know exactly which theater this is. I was looking at one, and then I just remembered that I don't fucking work at this place that I used to like 6 years ago. So I ended up going to the wrong theater, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is not where I fucking Googled. Like, am I stupid? So I'm looking at the website really quick because it's 9:22 and I'm supposed to be there at 9:30. I'm like, okay, I could make it, before previews, but let's just check this theater. And what do you know? They had the movie going. So I just went in at the exact same time.
Serendipity. It worked out perfectly. Awesome. Well, yes. No, I went to the correct theater, saw the correct showing. And yeah, I mean, both of us ended up seeing this film. I guess today is technically opening day. You can see April 10th on the poster there. It is April 10th today. Um, yeah, so I mean, we wanted to come on and give our thoughts about this. Chase, walk it through how you'd like to go about breaking this thing down, since it's a little bit of a different style for us.
I mean, we obviously got to do up front. We got to just bust out a spoiler free edition for everybody.
Correct.
So we'll
Yeah.
go ahead and do that real quick. A few things that we will touch on. We'll make a hard stopping point. Just so everybody knows that spoiler free, and then later we'll do the spoiler edition kind of deal. So if you want to get into the spoiler free stuff, we can. Unless there's anything else you want to touch on real quick.
No, I guess the only thing that I would say about my theater experience was that the coming into it. It was funny to me because we just briefly before the stream started, we're talking about who is the actual audience for this film. Is it going to be mostly fight people? Is it mostly the average civilian, so to speak, the average moviegoer, or a combination of the two? And I would assume that they would like it to be as broad as possible and a combination of the two. So I was at the kiosk. They don't have the people at the front of the theater anymore doing the tickets. So I was at the buy your ticket kiosk, and there were people next to me. It was a father and his young son, probably around maybe like 8 or 9 years old. And he was like, what do you want to see? They were just like trying to pick a movie. They didn't have a specific movie in mind. And one of them was, do you want to see the Beast movie? And the young son like thought about it for a minute, and he was like, that's fighting. And the dad was like, yeah, it's like the MMA, it kind of gave him a basic understanding of it. And the kid was just like, nah, I don't think so. So I don't know if maybe that age range is a little too young for it, but I don't know if necessarily it would have been the worst. I mean, it is an R-rated film, so yeah, maybe that's a little bit too, maybe there were a little bit too extreme elements to it for that age range specifically. But for I would say adolescence, this is not necessarily the worst movie. If you're going to, if you are a parent okay with taking your kid to an R-rated movie, you certainly could do worse than this, I would think.
Yeah, I mean the R rating. I mean it's not horrible. It's not the craziest movie, and we'll definitely talk about some other stuff in the spoiler free edition. But yeah, this is. I actually think what you are saying about wanting to get as many different demographics watching this movie. Obviously, if I go in there and I'm like, oh man, there was no fight fans. Like it was a shit experience. Like obviously I was the one fight fan. They got me out of the seven people that were in my theater. Obviously, it was actually five of us. But if you think about what it was, so it was a young couple who talked through a little bit of the movie. I think they fell asleep because they stopped talking through it. So that's what was going on above me.
They both fell asleep
I
together.
I I guess, I mean, because they stopped talking a little bit through the movie, but they were talking pretty loud for a little bit. I was kinda thinking like, "Yo, this is hopefully not gonna last," and then
Right.
obviously fell asleep. So it was a younger-ish couple, seemed like moviegoers who just, like, couldn't fucking take it, or maybe they were, yeah, anyway. And then about quarter, third of the way, we had an older couple come in, and this was like your frisky type couple because you could hear them walking in. She's like, "I don't know where your hands have been," and shit. Yeah,
Ah.
so they walk in here and like they walk up top and they're like, "Oh my god, there's nobody in here." And I'm like there's like two again, there's only three of us, but they're like, and the woman you can hear her, "No, there's somebody, there's some other people here." So they go pick a different seat. They talk for a little bit, of course, but
Oh my god.
thankfully the movie was pretty. I mean, I was engaged. I was engaged, guys. What can I say? But my
Yeah.
experience, the demographic was broad. Let me say that for the five of us.
Sure, and I mean, what I was gonna say is that, like, things like that are why people don't wanna go to movie theaters anymore, and I'm glad that you made me think of this, though, because when I was there, I was remembering I do like seeing a movie in the movie theaters. I thought the same thing during the Smashing Machine when we went to do the Smashing Machine. I was like, there is a definite value and an entertainment and enjoyment factor when you see a movie in the theater, that I think is definitely lost at home. I think that everybody knows that to be the truth. But then things like that are why people don't want to do it anymore. So, lady, shut the fuck up. Like, it just bothers me. Anyway, but yeah, so I had about I think 10 people in my theater, which I thought was pretty good for an opening night at this
Could have had
type of
12
movie.
with the father and son.
True. Yes, that is a very good point. They decided elsewhere. I think they ended up at Mario Galaxy. But so yeah, I thought it was a decent turnout for this type of movie. All the dynamics as we know them to be certainly was, I think, even better than the Smashing Machine, which was surprising to me. But that being said, I think I saw this one at a more prime time. I saw this at 6:50, so that's like about as prime time as you get for the movie going public, I would think. Anyway, aside from movie experience outside of the film, I guess we should start talking a little bit about this actual movie beast. So, basically, the story of this film is kind of a down and out fighter who gets drawn back into the fight world and has to navigate all of the circumstances of being a little bit past his prime, a little bit older, and the family dynamics of having a sibling who complicates his journey in the fight world, and then all of the family and things like that as well, right? I mean, that's the basic story here.
Well, I mean, for the spoiler-free guys out there, what I would say about the story is what actually happens, what you need to know about it going into it is it's not as basic as you would think. I mean, there are some decent elements that make you think like, "Oh, this isn't your regular kind of action hero story kind of deal." It is in a sense. They have a lot of the same touching points, but they do have like they veer off and have a different kind of set of circumstances. I mean, some things come out of left field, but it is actually an entertaining set of narratives that are going on here. I actually really enjoyed a lot of it. Not to say that the cast put on a crazy amount of entertainment for me. I mean, I thought a lot of them were lacking a little bit. This was not my favorite. They weren't acting their asses off, is what I'm going to say here.
Hmm.
So
Well, yeah. So, okay, I'll touch on both of those points. Point one of the twists and turns of the story, so to speak, or the uniqueness of the story, as far as like what your standard MMA film story is versus what this is. I did think that they put a couple of unique spins on it, things that made it a little bit more interesting than a down the line exact story that you would be expecting. Uh, that's about as far as I would go with that. And we'll definitely elaborate on this in the spoiler portion. As far as the acting goes, though, I mean, maybe I'm a little bit more charitable to some of them, but there were definitely some standout performers that I thought were better than others, and some that I thought were definitely lacking.
that is definitely the point to have, and also the thing that I'll note about the cast, and this is again for everybody who's out there wanting to go see this experience. If you are a big Russell Crowe fan and you are going to see this to see his Academy Award winning performance where he's the coach of the fighter who comes back into the game, that's just not what you're gonna get. That is not the story that the trailer I mean, that's the story that the trailer portrayed, but the movie, the official product that you get, that's not what happens at all. So
So, are you familiar with the films that Bruce Willis was doing where, like, they basically were bringing him in and, like, they had him with the earpiece and it was, like, very limited in the acting that he was doing? That, Bruce Willis, of course, going through some health problems and whatnot, but they were still trying to kinda, like, get him in films. Um, they
accommodating.
Exactly, yeah, they were very accommodating, to what, the roles were that he was being put into. I'm not saying that Russell Crowe is anywhere in the same circumstances, but the dynamics of how he was used in this film feel somewhat similar to that. You know what I mean? Where it's like he's slightly separated from the primary story elements, I would say is pretty fair, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's on the picture and he's one of the 3 names at the top, but he is by far maybe the 7th cast member down on screen time. I mean, he doesn't really have that big of a narrative at the end of the day. I mean, we'll talk about it, but he's just there to bring in some dough here. You know, that's really what it is. They used his face to make more money and they gave him money for it. So
That yeah, quite legitimately. I thought that it was interesting, of course, one championship, obviously, you cannot we can't extract that from this. One championship is a co-producer, a partner on this film, and it is very apparent that they are involved in this film throughout all of it. But the reason I brought that up was because I thought it was interesting. There's there are portions that take place in the regions of the world that one championship is predominantly recognized in and operates in, but the majority of the film is actually, I believe, a co-production with Australia.
that is a thing. Yes. So when you watch this one, you will very soon realize that this is an Australian film. Like
Right.
this is not a film this is a film for Aussies. Like they would love this. The Kiwis, the Aussies, everybody over there, they would love this film because this is all of their talking points. All of the stuff that they say, you're blokes, you fuck offs. Like that's in this right here. Some of them put on a better accent than others. We will talk about that, of course. Um, but yeah, when it came to another thing, when it goes to the region, yes. So some of this takes place in Bangkok. Uh, you don't see many Asian people when it comes to like the head officiating in that region of the world. I know like the head commission lady, she's just a black lady. Like I mean, and I don't know who she's supposed to be. I don't know. At the end, you get some more stuff with the Asian region, of course. But I think at the beginning you see some Asian fighters, then at the end, but in the middle, there's not many people that you see from Thailand that you're like, holy shit, there's the Thai people,
Well,
So I don't know.
I think that that's one of the more interesting parts about one being the promotion that is involved with this is that if the aim was to bring in a broader Australian New Zealand contingency to one championship's viewership, then sure, I guess you may have accomplished that perhaps. I mean, we'll see what the numbers are like in those regions. If the aim was to expose one championship, like if the aim was to expose one championship as like a mixed martial arts promotion and that's what you get out of watching it, then sure. If the aim was to expose like the actual culture around one and like what it represents with like all of the the other elements, the Muay Thai, the grappling, the region of the world that it takes place in generally, that I think was lacking.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And I think another thing, even when it sticks out to this poster right here, there's not even a one championship on the gloves, and that does happen in the movie, but it makes me wonder, this is a movie co-production, with one championship. There's no glove on the poster. There's not even a one championship logo on the poster. When I first walked into this movie, I was thinking, okay, we had just heard that Zack Snyder's doing something with the UFC. Now one championship needs a movie. So I figured that they were just slapping their name onto this in some way. But it is a Australian, kind of Kiwi-ish regional thing, and they do go to the one championship. But the thing again that you bring up is like one championship is majorly a Muay Thai promotion. There are some MMA, there are some submission grappling and kickboxing, but you have a story where you have a mixed martial artist who does not compete in Muay Thai does not do anything related to Muay Thai in the one championship. But why is one championship the one bringing up the mixed martial artists in the movie? It just feels so many things are just not connected here. Am I the? I don't know.
Yeah, well, again, it's like it's odd. It feels like because I mean, they certainly mention one a bunch in the movie, so
Hmm.
it's like it's not like it's not represented like that. Like, yeah, the name one championship comes up. They talk about the circle as opposed to the octagon. I thought was kind of a a fun note there. It's like they really are hammering some of the elements of one championship, but not like the culture of one championship. It's they're kind of divorced from each other in a way. So you get this odd hodgepodge where it sometimes does feel like it's more product placement than an actual integration at times, is kind of how I looked at it.
Yeah, yeah. I just there was one shot specifically in the trailer where they did an aerial shot of Thailand, and you could see like the big statue or whatever, that the huge statue, like it's like
Yeah.
a building size. And I was waiting for that to come around in the story, like what's this aerial shot gonna introduce? Just random shot of them just being in like a boardroom or something in Thailand, and then they just fly somewhere else. Like it really, it's an interesting set of circumstances, and I think having one be in the movie and then there's different things that go along with the movie. It's not just a fighter that wants to get into one championship and get the belt. Like that's not the entirety of the story. So I think for that sake, there's more to go see than just, oh, it's a fighter who wants to reclaim gold. Like it's more than that, really.
Oh, well, sure. Yeah. I mean, as most MMA films are, I would say. I mean, like it's hard to say it without getting into the spoilers. So I really kind of want to get into like
Hmm.
the spoiler territory a little bit, like quicker than later because it helps with like describing all of this stuff. But
Yes.
what I would say is that we watch a lot of MMA films on MMA on film, obviously, and like I would say that like there are distinct elements that you can probably pull out of a couple of different ones and combine them to make some of what you see here. But like that's kind of to be expected to an extent. This does a decent job of turning certain elements on its ear, but then other elements are very down the line. So it's
Yeah.
like you get a little bit of both, and then it kind of configures itself into a story that I guess is kind of subjective as to how satisfying that is to the average viewer versus how satisfying it is to people like us who have seen many of these types of films.
Yeah, 100%. But I agree with you. I think that is maybe all the things that I could say without getting too far into the story here. So if you would like, we could go ahead and get into our spoiler edition.
I would love to because I think that there's so much that I'm like holding back on with this spoiler free stuff. So, yes, people, this is going to be your final warning for spoilers from here on out. So, three, two, one, spoilers start now. All right, let's get into the actual nuts and bolts of this thing. Um,
Yes, we can start at the top of the movie, right? Because there's
sure.
things that I want to talk about from jump,
Yeah, yeah, most
So
definitely.
you go ahead and start us. Go ahead.
Well, so I thought that this film started off like it actually almost baited and switched to an extent because I was like the first shots that you get in this where it's the main guy here and Russell Crowe and they're backstage at a one fight and he's hyping him up. I thought that was like a really great way to like build the intensity. I was like, oh, okay, we're in this now. I was the sound design. That's actually one other thing, just real briefly. I did want to mention we can come back to later, but the sound there's some really good elements of sound design in this, and then sometimes it gets a little overbearing. But this was a good use of it here. They ramped up the intensity. He's hyping him up. They've got this mantra that they use that I think you actually see in the trailer, and it was like an effective way to be like, all right, we are starting off in this world and we're coming out hot, and then they freaking hard kneecap it and you end up on the on like the next phase of his life thereafter.
Yeah, this first scene is pretty funny. I mean, you touched on the main thing. I mean, obviously, they're sitting there getting ready. They have their slogan, why do we breathe so we can think? Why do we think so we can win? Or something like that. And they
Right,
keep
yeah.
saying over and over, him and, Russell Crowe. This was the performance right here that they were sold on. Like this scene right here, they filmed this first, kind of deal. And so yeah, Russell Crowe walks by. This is the main scene that I wanted to talk about at the first fight. He walks by and you get a glimpse of another fighter. You don't know who this is as of right now, but this turns out to be the brother of the main character. He walks by him, and if you know me, I love Tommy Gun because he has his whores around him. And of course, you get this side character which is the brother, and he walks into the locker room, Russell Crowe, and there's 13 ladies just hanging out with him, and he didn't know. He had no idea that any of them were here because he walks in and he's like, "What the fuck? Get out of here!" They're blasting music loud as
Yeah,
hell,
the
like
whole it was
partying.
quite the party going on backstage at the one show. I was like, good, like, could you like, I couldn't imagine that that is like okay for all of the fight. Imagine if they weren't the only ones that had that. Like, you just have all of these entourages just turning the locker rooms into parties. Like, it was a little ridiculous there. But either way, I mean, like, they were setting up this character being a little bit of a problem. So, that I think is one of the elements that works okay, the brother character, because the brother was like this kind of troubled also fighter. You've got again, what the overarching note is that when I said that, this film has a lot of like elements of other ones, really what it felt like to me is you take like the Cage, Bruised, and Warrior, and put those into a blender, and you get basically this with a little bit of a twist on it. You add
Well,
a twist of lime, and that's what you get.
no, absolutely. And I think now that I've seen the entirety of the movie, what I would like to say is because what goes on with the brother later, and we will discuss, I think what they should have done is made the brother actually compelling to start off with. Not make him a shit. Like, why are we supposed to care about him? First off, let me make this note now. So when I say it later, he's basically, and I don't know if obviously I said there's a lot of Aussies in here. We'll talk about the Samoans and stuff that we get. I think the brother is like supposed to be like some Mason Jones type dude. He looked a little Welsh to me. I don't know, guys. He looked just like Mason Jones, and I kind of just that was just Mason Jones to me. But either
I
way,
mean, yeah, that's just how his face looks. I mean, he was supposed to be. I thought they were kind of putting him out as like a Sean O'Malley-ish type guy. So I think the Tommy Gun comparison is actually a pretty apt one. Because they're like he's got the hair. He's got like pink hair and tattoos and stuff like that. So he's trying to be a character to sell himself, which I thought was a decent element there. But you are right, slightly one-dimensional character as far as like him being a little bit of a shit. But then later on, he does get a little bit more depth, but they kind of kneecap that too. Right when they're starting to give him a little bit more depth, they sort of just pull him away from the story.
yeah, no, absolutely. And I since Thinker brought up his pink hair, we'll talk about this later. This character, if you guys didn't know, they took inspiration from Curtis Campbell because he is the Pink Panther in this movie. I don't know if Thinker caught on to this, but we will talk about it more later. So
Sure.
there's your little foreshadow. But this intro scene was pretty funny because Russell Crowe starts giving him shit, and then he goes on about his stuff. He scoffs at him like, "Oh, you kicked my whores out," basically, and he leaves. And then our main character, walks out. He's ready to go to the fight. And then we get a cut to a fucking ship or a fishing vessel or some shit like this.
Well, that's the thing, is that you get this hard shift, and like I was okay with it at that moment. Like it did feel like a tonal shift on purpose, so I'm like, okay, obviously they've got a plan here. We're going on to the next thing, like whatever. Like, I'm rolling through with it. But then, like, now thinking about it after seeing the entire movie, I was like, I didn't feel like we got enough of those like grandiose elements in this film, that like a tonal shift like that was necessarily the right move, based on the fact that there's not a ton of fighting in this fighting movie.
Yes, we should have said that in the spoiler-free edition, but
True. Yeah.
that should have came, guys. There's not much fighting going on in this movie, inside the cage, outside the cage, and even anything that's in between kind of deal. There's not many even stand-offs kind of deal. There's maybe we're gonna get to one here in this shipping kind of scenes kind of deal, but yeah, there's not much fighting going on. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, really. I mean, like, there's only I think there are 3 instances of actual fighting in the film, which I know
Yeah.
is crazy. Like, I mean, aside from training, where like actual fights. So like, yeah, it's not a packed film in that regard when it comes to the actual fighting. I will say that I thought that the fight scenes were well choreographed. As far as like, we always go over films like as a film and as an MMA film. I did think that the MMA elements of the fighting were some of the better MMA portrayals that we've seen, but you have to also keep it in perspective of like film versions of it because it's very choreographed on top of like doing moves that you like, recognizable moves and defenses and things like that were all there, but they're doing it at like 3x speed. So it's like, you're just going transition and transition, transition, transition. It's like, okay, this is a lot. There's a lot
Yeah.
going on, even though it does look like decent for what it's trying to portray.
Yeah, we will definitely get into what I have to say about the fight scenes, but
Uh-huh.
I'll wait till we get to that specific part because there's people and that we haven't got to yet. But
Sure.
anyway,
Yeah.
so we're on the shipping vessel, and it's him. And the reason they have this scene and they instantly want to set up that we're supposed to, later on you realize that the character that we're about to meet is going to be more pivotal than you realize, kind of deal. He's working alongside the oaf character. This is your giant goofball. I mean, has no thoughts in his brain, kind of deal. I mean, he's breaking things that, either way. So they come back to the shore and the captain gives them their money. He gives our main character 400 and he gives the oaf 200. You broke the net the other day, so I had to take it out your thing. And this is where you see that our main character is the nice guy because he stands up for him like, yo, that wasn't his fault, it broke. And then, he obviously doesn't get anything out of it. So the boss walks off and he gives half of his money so they get 300 apiece is basically what they split it off as.
Right.
So
Yeah. He gives them the 100 to make it even between the two of them. Yeah. And the big guy is like the little John to our Robin Hood, so to speak here. He's a big kind of lovable guy, but sort of simple. Yeah, and we're establishing that this dude is our main character is like the good guy here. Which I thought was fine. It again, like there's a lot of like elements that don't necessarily I mean, I guess that they're just sort of they happen in the world, but they don't have like a lot of greater significance. Like really, I guess what we're trying to see is that, oh, he's been on this boat and they're not making a lot of money on this boat. So it establishes that he's a little bit down on his luck. We get home after that and he meets the wife, or we meet the wife and the child there. The child needs like a specialist of some sort for some medical stuff that also never comes back. But it's just again an establishment of him needing money and them trying to get life sorted out for them without fighting as a part of it. This is also many years later after he had been a fighter, so things have happened in that meantime. The
10
wife,
years later
yeah,
specifically.
exactly, is a decent amount of time. So like I thought the wife was possibly the weakest character in this film to me. I thought that like I no okay. What I will say is that there are low key people, right? There are people who don't emote a whole hell of a lot just as their natural defaults, right? If you're going to play a character like that, you have to be a very good actor on top of it. Because that's the only two things that I could say as far as this person goes, this actress is either she's intentionally being very low key, and that's you need to have like an even more subtle performance to match that level of energy because you're not emoting a ton, or you have to actually like kind of go out of your way to be a little bit more emotive, which she was not doing. So I don't know which one of those it was, but either one of those were not equaling up to a very satisfying character with her.
I'm glad you brought her up so early because yeah, so we meet her and you instantly can see she's just not even there. Like she's just, going through the motions. As a character who's playing the mom kind of deal of a child who you're supposed to it's like you're supposed to have like a special needs kind of connection, I believe. That's what I was getting from
With the
the
daughter,
yeah, that's what I was getting from it.
I mean, she didn't really seem like special needs in
I
that
mean, but
way.
it's a spectrum type of thing. That's what I
Yeah,
was reading from it.
okay. I didn't really pick up on that necessarily. I mean, granted, they did say
Do you
she
think it
needed
was
a
like a medical thing? Is that how you read
yeah.
it? Like,
That's how read
well,
it. I
we
mean,
didn't see
because
no hospitals with her, or like
well,
she
that's
wasn't
my
ever.
point is that they never really did anything with it. So it's like I thought that she seemed like kind of just a normal kid to me. And like
Well, either way, that's what I read it as. I would have think if they were trying to sell like a medical thing, like we would have seen a doctor talk to him or something like, "Hey, here's a medical bill" or something. Like I think it was like we need to send them to like a special school kind of deal. That's what I was reading it as, like a specialist, like to help with behavioral special, like
okay, I mean, well, fair enough. Then either way, then I guess the answer is that if they didn't like give enough of an impression one way or another, kind of lacking in that regard, you
True.
know?
Yeah, actually, leaving it up to interpretation is
Right.
basically what they left for us. But yeah, so we meet the household. The wife is what you'll soon to find out that one of the worst characters here. She's not one. Her character's kind of unbearable. She doesn't flip flop, but she acts one way and then she'll say another thing, which is kind of annoying. Um,
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I think that that was an okay like progression because basically she started, with tropes in MMA on film. Like, I definitely want to like go at some point and like put together a list of all of like the tropes that we see commonly in these films because they come up so often. But she's of the trope to begin with, at least, of the "I don't want you to fight" wife. That's a very normal one, or the spouse. I don't want you to fight spouse because she
that
don't what.
I was gonna say that's not what they were reading it as at first, because she was supposed to not even know about his past because he says that, because what you'll soon find out is in the 10-year gap, our character had been in prison,
Right,
and
we
then
eventually find that out. Yeah.
yeah, so and he alludes like he had been hiding that. This is how I read it, at least. She was not supposed to know majority of his backstory. He had been very good at hiding that portion of his
Oh, see,
life.
I didn't get I thought it was that she knew it, but she was like that you've left that behind you now kind of thing. You know what I mean?
And
Like she's aware of it, but it's like, okay, that's in the past.
yeah, I get that portion of it too, but the way she acts and like how she's dumbfounded that he wants to be a fighter. Like that's the way that it's portrayed a little later. So you are right, like how would she not know? But
Well,
we've
and
watched
also because
movies.
but the brother is still fighting too, so she's got to have like some frame of reference
True,
for
you are right. I was wondering a little later, like how was she so amazed that he wanted to do this? But we'll get into it, of course. So the wife, I did not like her performance, unfortunately. But
yeah, same.
it is what it is. So yeah, we find out that he needs money, and before the scene, you find out that he'd give up his money for his family to a random guy that he works with, kind of deal. So compelling to some, yes, but when you think about it, it's like, damn, dude, you got a family for your own. You just gave up $100 fucking,
I mean,
Like,
well, guess the idea also is that it's like it's only $100 in like the grand scheme of things because they I mean, $400 total is not going to be enough for wife, kid, husband, and then what we will find out to be another child on the way.
yes, yeah, absolutely. So that's a good one, and yeah, I think that's maybe the last thing I have on this scene.
Yeah,
Um,
well, because then we end up getting into the portion where we find out that the brother is also a fighter and that he's fighting currently still. And
yes,
this was one of the most, this part of the movie, like as far as the MMA portion of things go, was kind of, embarrassing is not the right word. I don't want to like because that's a little bit of a loaded word and a bit too strong. But like, so basically, what the scene is that the main character is like I guess in the basement and he's hitting the heavy bag and he's watching his brother fight on TV in one, and his brother just gets fucking annihilated. I mean, like this was just an annihilation performance. And then we're supposed to throughout later in this film kind of acknowledge that the brother is like a good fighter, and it was like you did not portray him as a good fighter here. And this is the only fighting that we ever see him do aside from what we, in an in-person fight that like up until this point, I guess is a better way to say it. Up until that point, we'd never seen the brother fight. This is our first exposure to him fighting, and he gets obliterated.
yeah, no, and it's not just obliterated. It's a crucial point to the story that he knocks him down. The fight is called off, and he lands a late shot.
True.
Now,
Yeah, yeah, that is crucial.
what you need to know is that when you watch this as a fight fan, I mean, that wasn't no late shot at all. The ref did not step in. The ref did not even touch, bro. I mean,
And they said that too. They said they were like, "Oh, the referee was stopping the fight and he hit him." I was like, "What? Where was that?" I mean, like,
yeah,
yeah, the poor portrayal of that for sure. Because yeah, he does go for a shot at the very end, but like it didn't line up with what they were trying to portray it as. But that is a crucial point to the whole rest of the story. So you'd think that they would have made that a little bit more apparent as to what they were trying to get across.
I totally can understand though, as somebody who's a casual viewer, when you hear the bell, that's the end of the fight. They don't know that, oh, the ref has to actually like, get in there or they will keep hitting him kind of deal. It's in a sense, like you would believe, like, oh, when they hear the bell, the fighter would stop. But that's not how a late stoppage actually works. We see them all the time. The ref has to like pull these people off of them, kind of deal. And we just did not get to see that portrayal of it. It was a more casual viewing experience portrayal, I would say.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, in theory, the fighter should hear like the clapper and know that the round is coming to an end at some point. But yeah, I mean, like if they end up going past the bell, I mean, like it's one of those gray areas. I would say, right? I mean, like there are times where it's like, if it is a late hit, it's if it's an unintentional late hit, whatever. We what they're trying to do is set up the other guy as sort of a scumbag fighter.
Yes.
But like I don't think that it necessarily was like the best way to achieve that in a short period of time. Through what they're trying to get across, because really all it made it look like was that the brother was not a great fighter. That's how I read it.
True. And if you want to know how bad of a fighter he is, I mean, talk about getting sent to the hospital because I mean, he got sent to a coma, guys. This is instantly how crazy it gets for the brother. I mean, he gets beat so bad with a late hit. And that's what you're supposed to believe is like the late hit is what sent him into a coma. It's not the competition itself. It's not him being so bad and taking so many unnecessary blows. It is the late hit. It's the
Well,
scummy move that put him into the coma.
and that's a great point too, because I thought initially when we're seeing that hit happen, that late hit or whatever, I thought that they were setting it up as a back of the head shot. And had that been the case, then coma may have made sense. You hit him in the base of the spine, maybe that tracks in that regard. But they frame it as the late hit and go forward with that. And then you're exactly right. It becomes now the late hit was the thing. I hate to break it to you people, whether it's a late hit or within the time, within the regulation time hit, it's going to have the same impact, I would suspect. I mean, like, why, you should have set it up as the back of the headshot. You should have set it up as a foul. Why, like, that should, like, because I mean, granted, it would have been a foul either way, but my point is set it up as a back of the headshot so that A, it accomplishes the dirtiness, and B, it makes sense as to why he would be in an actual coma.
Yeah, but I think that also goes back to a casual viewing experience. You would have to explain what is a legal strike
That's
to
what Dom Lau
somebody.
is there. Or that's what the main announcer guy is there for. He was all over this film, by the way. That one championship announcer guy that's always talking.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
he could have said
absolutely.
that. Oh, shot to the back of the head. That is expressly illegal in the one championship rules. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I definitely can hear you. I don't know. I think for a casual experience, I would still stand that like it's easier to explain after the regulation is over kind of deal that's a foul versus why would a back of the head strike if you could punch him right here? Like I think the casual would start asking too many questions, maybe.
I
I don't know.
maybe whatever. Either way, I mean, you could have done both. It would have
True.
also been
True.
fine. But either way, whatever. So yes, he ends up in a coma, the brother, and then not only is he in the coma, the main character goes to visit him. He's got this girlfriend that is like kind of this nice girl character, which is kind of funny to me because it's like she's sort of like a sweet girl, but he's like a bit of an asshole. So it's a side dynamic there. She calls to bring the main character over to to visit him in this coma, try to figure out what's going on. And then we also find out that not only is he in the coma now, but he also is in debt to a mafia kind of figure, like this underworld sort of guy. This was, I thought, the biggest missed opportunity of this film. Not necessarily missed opportunity, but more like why kind of thing, because like just why was it there if you weren't going to use it? It was almost a Chekhov's gun kind of situation. Like why was it there if you're not going to do anything with it? But because basically yes, the brother is in debt to this mafia guy who the main character knows. He's familiar with this guy, and so we've got to pay this guy back, and we've got to try to make this debt go away in some way, right? That's what the brother is now in a coma. He's also in debt. How is this going to get fixed?
Yeah. No, this one, first off, let me start with the girl. She's probably the second worst. And I hate to say this, and I'm being mean to all the women in the cast, and I apologize, but her character was written so bad. Her
She,
character was
she,
what?
she's just nothing, you know what I mean? She's just not like she doesn't like bring anything to any like to the story aside from being like a person who sets up things.
She sets up things, but she waits until the last possible moment of doing anything. Like she sits there and she's like bursting of tears, and then she'll be like, "All right, I'm sorry. He took money from the mob." And it's like,
Oh,
"What did you wait until he's been in a coma to say something?" Like,
that's so funny, and that also happens again later on with the
exactly.
which is yeah, I didn't even realize that until you just said it, but yeah, that's a funny element to her for sure. I guess you're supposed to get the impression that she's somewhat like meek, that she's like kind of like because there's a character she reminds me of. Oh, she reminds me of the guy in Roadhouse who was like the biker, but he was like he didn't want to be one of the biker guys or whatever, where he's apologizing for how they're acting. It kind of reminded me of that a little bit, where it's like, she's not really as bad as the brother and the rest of the crew people might be, but she's still just part of the deal. So maybe she just doesn't know how to act correctly, I guess. But it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, she was definitely, gosh, she was something. But yes, so the mafia, the little mob boss doesn't really amount to anything. Like, if you thought this was an action movie that just happened to take place with a previous fighter inside the cage or whatever, this would be the jumping off point where he's like, I got to go after the mob now. I got to go get them because they set my brother up and they put money on him and he owes them. Now let me go pay his debts and I'll go murder them all. That's not what happens. Not what happens at all. He figures out, what exactly happened. He asks the girl, how did he get the money, or what did he? I'm trying to think. So he took the debt to pay off his team and his camps, and now
And
he's
also just to continue the lifestyle. That was the big thing, a big note.
yes.
Yeah, the lifestyle that he's trying to portray to sell himself as a big shot. It costs money, so he took money to from this mobster guy to prop his image up.
Yes, and so then he took the fight with Growl so he could pay off his debts with the mob or the mafia, whatever you want to say. And I can't remember the numbers that they were offered. 50K, I think he was
Right.
offered, the brother.
Mhm.
So our main character, he's a little distraught about it, and now I think he just leaves. I think he goes into the waiting room. That's right,
Right.
and they go into the waiting room, and then you get to see the knockoff Brad Pitt come into the movie.
Yeah, this is the Hemsworth here is the third Hemsworth. I don't know if you knew there were three of them, but this is the third one. This is Luke Hemsworth is the manager of the guy who the brother was fighting, who is set up as a rival to not only the brother but to both of them, because we
Yes.
will find out that that the main character fought and beat this guy very quickly in the past, and
6
then now
seconds.
6 seconds, quickest knockout in one championship history. They've made a big point to mention. And so then he was fighting the brother, and now he just brutally annihilated the brother of the guy who beat him. So that's the setup with the three of them. And the manager is this guy's manager, the opponent guy, the main villain, if you want to call him a villain, which I guess technically he is. So he's in there, and basically he says, like, I can set up a fight with you. So talking to the main character here, I can set up a rematch with you and him. He wants to get it back because you're the only blemish on his record. He wants to avenge the loss. I'll set you up. I can pay a good amount of money for it, and they essentially haggle that out and come to essentially a conclusion there. But we have to draw it out a little bit, so they don't actually like go through with it right then and there.
Well, the main key thing is the money. Yes, he says 100 grand or whatever, and he's like, "All right." Our main character says, "Fine, I need 6 months to go. 6 months." And this is a funny thing because it comes back very quickly. He says he needs 6 months to do it, and the manager replies, "You got 7 weeks. Take it or leave it." And then so we leave there with an open ended kind of negotiation. We haven't really discussed. He obviously has the offer on the table, and then obviously the manager knows that he set the seed. Now he's got to go talk to our villain character and stir the pot a little bit. So I'm trying to think the next thing. Does he go back to the house after this and talk with the wife?
Yeah, well, because they're back there, and he's basically saying he talked to me about wanting to fight, and I said no, and she's like, do you want to, or are you thinking about it? And he's like, oh no, of course not. And she's like, oh, you are thinking about it, and I was like, lady, like, well, you're badgering this dude about doing the thing that could actually a make you get set you up, and b he's telling you that he doesn't want to do it or was not thinking about it or whatever. Like you're not helping the situation by like kind of being the way that you're acting right now.
And this is exactly the way she's acting. Like if she would have been like, "You told me that you were never gonna fight again," if she would have just not do you want to do it? Like, are you sure you want to do, like, you could do it if you really want to do it. Like, why are you playing the game? Like, if the deal was he was never fighting again, if you got other ways to make it, a little earlier, she said she'll pick up another shift, I think. So go get three more, girl, if you don't want him to fight, because this is a lot of money that could be made. It could clear the debt. It can pay for the specialist. And we will just be able to have, I think he even says it'll just keep him afloat for a little bit. It'll just
Right.
keep them in the mix. So,
Yeah, exactly. And then that ends up being what he ends up doing is that, behind the wife's back, he does take the fight. And I actually thought that this was one of the better elements of the film. They make it very clear he took that fight for the money. He would just
mhm.
wanted it for the cash. Like he wasn't doing it for glory or to try to become the champ or anything like that. He was just taking this fight for the money just to, give him a little bit of breathing room.
No, this is one of the story elements that makes me mad. The fairy tale ending is just the guy who just takes the fucking money, and I just got to make the fight.
Well, but
I
see,
don't I don't have to train that. I just got
no,
to
no, no,
make
no.
it
But
to
see,
the fight.
that's different though, because like I don't agree with that because they do throughout the course of the story evolve it so that it's not
I
that anymore.
I agree, and that's why there was a caveat at the beginning. There's a lot of story elements that are the same that they could have just went down a very easy route with, but they do turn it on its head, and this is not as important of a thing later on, I would say. But for me to believe that this is what people are supposed to watch and look up to when they watch movies for the fighter, be like, yeah, he phoned it in for that last fucking fight, bro. $100,000. All I got to do is show up. 6 weeks of training. Let's do it. Fuck it.
Well, yeah, exactly. That this is like where it started versus how it ended. Basically, was where
Yes.
we ended up with all that. But so yeah, so he takes that, but then the pivotal point of the late shot that we were just talking about earlier does come back, and this is another element that I thought was a cool little spin in this movie. Because I mean, there's other things that happened before that, of course, but like well, so I mean, yeah, I don't know if we want to go out of orders for that. So I guess we can wait on that. So
We'll wait on that because I think it's important for you to understand what the timeline here. So
sure.
we haven't gotten too far into it. We find out the wife is got another baby on the way, which is another crucial point that this all takes place very very relatively in a short amount of time.
Sure.
Considering there's a coma, there is a pregnancy, there is a title fight. These all happen within the same time period.
Yeah, it
So
has to be under 9 months because she's still pregnant by the end of the movie.
and it ain't that big of a bump. Let me just tell you
True.
guys that. I mean, it was maybe anyway. So yeah, I think okay. So we find out she's pregnant. He takes the fight without her, and then we go back to the boat. Is this where we're at now? Where he
Oh yeah, where he ends up quitting the boat, or not? He gets fired from the boat.
Yes. Well, this is where you get a funny scene with the oaf character actually first, where he's like, "Man, we should grow some weed," and he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, you got somebody that knows." He's like, "Yeah, I got a buddy. He just takes a seed every now and then. He throws it out in the yard, and he comes back in 6 months and he makes $1,000." And he's like, "Oh, damn! Like, where's your brother? Or where's your friend?" And he's like, "He's in prison." And he's like, "Oh, what's he in prison for?" He's like, growing weed. And it was it was stupid because they're setting up this character to be the dumbest person you've ever fucking met. And gentle giants exist. People aren't book smart, they can be street smart, vice versa. But this guy right here, we talk about Bloodsport, my favorite character, the giant Asian man. This was the giant Asian man
Yeah,
equivalent. Like this,
this
they do
is
can match up.
yeah Lenny from Of Mice and Men for sure.
Exactly.
Big simple guy. So yeah, that was definitely a kind of a groaner joke moment there. But yeah, so this boat is the worst fishing boat ever because they never catch any fish. So they're not making any money. And he's getting into it with the captain. Captain is an asshole. He's been an asshole the entire time. So the captain ends up firing him, and that's that basically. Now he really needs to get cash. It's like, okay, now like I have to take this fight rather than I just want to take the fight.
This is going to be your note in the video to go ahead and watch the movie yourself because there is an issue that I noticed and I don't know how it's not bugging anybody else. So in this scene, he tells off the boss. He's like, "Look, dude, your fucking boat sucks." And the boss fires him. Boss walks back. He pulls a flare gun on him, by the way. This is a funny
True.
thing. Not even a real gun, not a machete, flare gun. He points it right at him. He's like, "Dude, I'll burn you with this." Like, sure, whatever. So our main character walks away, sorry, this is where the error comes in. So he walks away initially, And then the captain says something, so he drops his bags and then he walks back, and that's when the captain pulls the flare gun on him. Well, when our main character walks away because he gets bitched by a smoldering rock or whatever they shoot out of them things, he walks away and his bags are just up on the fucking dock. Like they're just like nowhere near him.
I
I'm
did
like,
notice that too. Actually, that's funny that you mentioned that.
I did he throw them up there? Like I don't know if we were supposed to imply that he just like grabbed him and threw him. Like yeah, you fucking pussy. I don't know what he was doing, but he had to walk up to a different area where his truck was, and his bags were just by the truck now. Like I don't know how they got from dropping them by his side all the way up to a different area, but that was just an interesting portion that happened right there.
Yeah, yeah, a little continuity error or whatever. For sure. Yeah, it definitely was somewhat noticeable though too, because I thought the same thing. I was like, I thought I put him down next to him or
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, either way, not. I mean, again, like in the big picture, it's like it certainly was not as big of a noticeable one as like the dude in Bloodsport jumping from one direction and then coming in at the other direction kind of thing.
Yeah,
But it
fair.
was it was definitely, in like in 2026, you'd think that maybe not, maybe they wouldn't have those kinds of problems. But either way, I guess we're kind of dwelling on minor
Yes.
things. But
So
um,
so
yeah,
the next
good.
scene we actually I think we get our main character. He gets in the car and he drives to a gym. I think that's where he goes, right? The next scene he goes to the gym.
Well, no, I think he actually he takes the fight at that point because he hadn't taken it up until that point. That's where they're in the hotel. He's talking to the main guy. That's when the you've got the 7 weeks comes into play because he hadn't actually signed the contract or anything up until that point. They'd only kind of verbally had talked about it a little bit, but now he knows that he needs the money. So he goes to the hotel. He's like, I'm gonna, I need the money. I want half up front. The Hemsworth, the manager guy, agrees to all of his terms. So I was like, okay, at least that works out. And then he ends up paying back the mafioso guy.
You're all right. So he goes to the hotel, you're right, and he meets up with our fake Brad Pitt, and he gets more money out of him. That's the thing. He negotiates more. He's like, 100,000, you ready to take the deal? And he's like, I want 150. And this is where you're supposed to read from our Brad Pitt character that he doesn't think that he could pull, he's like, 150, like fine, we'll go ahead and do it, but you're supposed to read like he probably shouldn't have done 150 kind of deal. That's what
You're
you're
really
supposed
you're
to
really
read with.
twisting my arm over here.
Exactly. So you definitely get that scene. Yes, absolutely. And then he takes the deal, gets the money up front, goes to pay off the mob boss. This is a great scene. So go ahead.
Well, this is the one that bothers me, though. I mean, not the scene, but the setup with this character. So yes, he goes to a strip club. This is where the mafioso guy is. Pays him back in full. He's like, my brother's debt is paid. The mafioso guy is like, hey, you're an honorable guy. If you need anything, if there's anything I can do for you, just let me know. Whatever. I like you. You handle business correctly. All that kind of stuff. And I'm like, you set up this mafia character and then you just don't do anything with it at all throughout any rest of the story. I mean, like he shows up one other time just to be a side character, but that's it. So I mean, like I understand that you have to have this element with the brother and like make him a little bit more compelling through the debt in general, but like you have this like dynamic that's created with these two characters of being like somewhat friendly with each other, which I thought was cool. I thought that was a good subversion. So you don't have to be at odds with the mob guy all the time in every movie. I thought that could have been an interesting little something to bring back somewhere. They just never use it again. Like he's just again just sort of cast to the side after this portion.
I think it speaks to the culture of mobs and gangs because this is just a side portion to their life. In the movie realm, this is like, oh yeah, I mean, just gangs but like he goes into a strip club and you see like the Samoan guys, like those are his bodyguards, and it's like big Carlos Oberg, Junior Taffa, Jordan McAuliffe kind of looking guys, and it's just interesting that yeah, it's not the main portion of the story that mobs and gangs exist and that there's ties to them. It's just like yeah, that happens. Yeah, we just paid off his debt. Now we got another guy that we're gonna try to rope into a debt. I mean, what else? What else can you expect? We're down under, mate. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I was okay with that aspect of it if that's what they wanted it to be. It just seemed like in a movie like this where there's not that many like out of left field things. I mean, for an MMA film, there are certainly twists on the basic the mainline story. There are twists on it, which is kind of what we're talking about. I like the fact that he was said he was going to throw, not throw the fight. He said he was just taking it for the money kind of thing. He wasn't really in it like that. That's a little bit of a subversion. But like something like that, like you have this character that you could do a bunch with, and then yeah, you just kind of leave it as like a part of the world as sort of a set piece. It just felt like a lack of a payoff of any sort with it. But I mean, maybe you don't need a payoff. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's this one. Interesting setups here, and they didn't pay anything off with the mob. We see them later, but it has nothing really to do with any money or
Yeah, they're
anything
just
like that.
around. Yeah, they're just like you said. It really is just like a part of the world that's just like as accepted as any other element of your day to day life.
Yeah, 100%. And then so after this, is this now where we go to the gym?
Yes, yeah, they go to
Okay.
the he goes to the gym now because he's accepted the fight, so now he needs to train, and he goes back to the gym that he had started with where where you would expect Russell Crowe to be, waiting for or working there or whatever, to be there. But no, it's not. There's another subversion here, I guess, to an extent. He walks in, and it is the daughter of the Russell Crowe character who greets him, and obviously he had known her for a long time, knew her since she was a younger person, and now she is head of the gym, so to speak. She's doing the kids class at this point.
That's a crucial point to make here is that because he eventually talks with her, he wants to get coach back, and she's not having it. She's like, yo, she's saying that he's not going to help you. You're not going to be a star pupil anymore. You messed that up. He's going to tell you to go fuck off, basically. And the woman here, Rose, is that her name? Rosie?
Yes, Rose.
She has the worst Aussie accent. She's trying really hard. I don't know if maybe she is Aussie. I don't know. I was reading it as she was trying really hard and she was breaking in and out of the accent a little bit. So this
I
scene
mean,
specifically was hard for me.
I gotta believe that she's an Aussie actress, so I don't know if I mean maybe that's just I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Maybe
I
she's
don't
a
know.
Casey O'Neill. Maybe she's an Aussie actress by some other region, and it sort of breaks it up a little bit.
Maybe, but so anyways, yes, she's confident that I could do it. I could be your coach. He's not going to do it, but I'm going to do it for you. He taught me everything I'm going to be able to teach anybody else. As she's teaching fucking 12-year-olds or whatever. She's going to go ahead and teach a mixed martial artist who's not even close to their prime anymore to get them back into the game and then challenge for a title. This
For
is
a
again,
title, yeah, that's the other thing. We haven't mentioned that. Yeah, they don't even say that during the brothers fight. By the way, that he was fighting for a title at that point. I don't think if they did, it was a very very passing mention of it. But yeah, this is the guy who is the rival of the brother and the main character is the champion of one championship, and the fight that the main character is going into is a title fight,
mhm,
middleweight.
yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm trying to think of because we're talking about the villain and we haven't really been formally introduced to him yet. And I think here soon we're going to get because yeah, Rosie, he accepts her to be his coach. Cool. And then I think we get Russell Crowe to like walk out. This is where we finally see him again, right? Does he come out here or does he wait a
No,
little bit?
he comes in a little bit later
Okay.
because yeah, she just basically says, I'll train you. I'll just show up and we'll do it together, you and me. And but no, we do get a brief introduction to the
On the
villain character
podcast.
on the podcast. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Which I thought was decent there. As far as MMA films, like it was in 2026 terms, it was nice to see like the internet culture being represented because it is so like the fan culture is so much just online and like in podcasts and YouTube channels and things like that like that was the right way to do it. Like if he was going to have some kind of exposure to the outside world, that would be where it would be.
This character, the villain, and this goes back to the cage as well. I think the villain in the cage was one of the better ones, and I think he did a really good job. I think the villain here. So we learn his name is I don't know if we even learned it yet, but his name is Xavier Grau, and on the podcast, he's chilling with it. I at first was thinking like, oh, this is gonna be our Ariel character, but like, no, this is just like supposed to be some random podcaster that just got an interview with a guy because nobody wants to interview some guy who's a dirty fighter kind of deal. So he's interviewing. He's like, man, everybody's wondering about that late shot, man. What was that about? And then the way that they treat the villain, and I think this is one of the better movie villains that I think we've had in a while. I think, to be fair, I don't know if you feel the same way. This dude was I've never seen him before, by the way. Is it Daniel McPherson? Is he or is that
No,
the main
that's
character?
the main character.
So
Yeah, I don't
whoever the
remember what
villain
his
is,
name is. Yeah.
he was good. Like he was obviously portraying a fighter who was also evolved in life. You know, he's not a young fighter, he's not a young guy, but he definitely had like the arrogance down. Like the way the camera was panning in on him, like the facial expressions that he had, and the music that would play, like how it would drop when he was ready to like say his, you know, his lines or whatever, was really good. You know, he's talking about how it wasn't a late hit, that's fine. But then they ask him, you know, what do you think about getting, you know, I hear you're getting a rematch with the guy who beat you in 6 seconds or whatever. Does that ever linger around in your mind? And then like you can see he's like not taking it well. Like I think they did such good stuff with the villain here. So go ahead, let me hear your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like hate the villain character, like as far as like the portrayal goes or anything like that. I thought that it was interesting that they made him so dead set on like targeting. He almost had like an Alex Pereira, Israel Adesanya kind of thing going on with this family, with the brother and the brother. So like, you know, the two of them. So I mean, like you know, the main character and the brother are like the rivals of this guy, basically. So it's just like he kind of has like this like determination to have wins over both of them. I thought that that was an interesting element, I guess, but then what they end up doing with it kind of was like not really great to me. Like he as a character was not bad. I didn't like the navigation in the story because what we'll get to is, you know, like this big underground element, which you know, we can talk about when it comes up, but I just I'm sick. I guess I'm kind of tired of that trope. When it comes down to it, at the end of the day, like, you know, we've talked so many times about how there are underground smokers around every corner in every city on the planet. This comes back basically in this story, and I guess I'm just a little over it, perhaps, because I just thought that for this character being a champion of one championship, like this is a champion level fighter who is doing this nefarious shit, you know?
Well, we're gonna get into a story plot that maybe adds into the element for the over exaggeration of going to do something like that. But
Right.
so I think after this is this where we learn? Do we go back to Bangkok and we're at the commissions after? Is this after
I
this?
think so, yeah, because I believe that, yeah, I think that that does make sense because, yeah, we're basically what happens there is that, and this was actually one of my favorite elements of the story. I wish that there was actually commissions on the planet that operated like this and would do things like this. But basically, what happens is that, so they had said, you know, that 7 weeks was the amount of time for the training for the main character because that's going to be when he's going to fight this champion fighter in one championship. But the commission will not allow the fight to take place because he is now suspended the champion based on that late hit. I was like, how true to life is that? I want to say A for realism, but we don't see that very often. So I don't know if I necessarily can go that far, but I did like it for this story because it definitely added an interesting element to things. So essentially, the main character gets sort of saved by the contract. Well, they even say that in the movie. Oh, you know, you're hiding behind the contract. That'll come up in a couple of beats here. But that's essentially what happens is that because he is now not cleared to fight, he's essentially suspended. This fight that they have that had been set up contractually cannot take place.
Yeah, and this is a really good scene. Again, I think this is part where the villain I think shines because the shot that they have. So after he finds out that he can't fight, you know, he's like, "You're suspended, dude. You're not gonna fight." They have a shot of the entire boardroom table and everybody's getting up, packing their bags or whatever, and he's just sitting there. You know, it's a really good shot that like you could see like this is all he wanted. You know, like you fucked him over kind of deal. You could see him festering on it like how am I gonna figure this out, you know. I think really good scene to end it off. And then we go back to the house, and this is where our hero is telling the wife, you know, they're on the back porch swing, and he's finally telling her that he accepted the fight, or she finds out that he accepted, I forget.
Well, he's basically saying that no, she already had known and she was angry about it. So he had been
Okay,
like
oh,
kind
you're
of
right,
in the
you're right.
doghouse for a while. But now he's telling her, he's like, I don't have to do the fight. The fight is off and I'm still going to get paid.
Yeah.
And like, again, you had said that you were being a little hard on the women in this movie. I think it's understandable for this film. So it's not a sexism thing, but like, I would be, I could definitely make a somewhat sexist comment here to say that it's like, yeah, once the money comes through, everything is okay now. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know. They're making me have to say that in this film because it's like, you know, she's all upset. She doesn't want him to fight anymore. Blah blah blah. You know, I don't care about the money. What am I going to tell your daughter when you're in the hospital? All the stuff that we always hear. But then it's like, I don't have to take the fight, and I'm getting paid, and it's like, oh, okay, everything's great again. It's like all of the things you were mad about were not those things. Like you were mad at you, or at least what you said. You're mad about him lying to you. That's basically what the main issue was here, and you were mad about the fact that he was going to take the fight at all. But no, now it's all okay because he doesn't have to do it, and now you get paid.
I I actually don't think everything was a-okay. I mean, it was. She eventually came around to it. He said the line like, "Can I get my wife back now or whatever?"
Right.
Fine, but then he ends up sleeping on the couch, I believe, because the next
No, no,
scene
no,
that's
that was before.
no, no, I think it was this one because he wakes up, his phone alarm or whatever goes off, and he gets up and he goes outside to his truck because that's where he's about to go start training, and that's where we meet the Oath character waiting
No,
by
no,
the
no, that was
car.
all before, bro. Yeah, that all the stuff with the, oh yeah, I guess we didn't say that about the side character, that guy. He becomes like his like entourage guy.
That hasn't come around yet because he didn't go back to the gym to start training yet. He brings him along for the training, which is another crucial scene that we get to because the side character that you're supposed to believe is just some oaf, he's just a nice guy around the parts, and he pays, he gives him the money, we work together, chop chop. Well, he's just waiting outside of his house. He doesn't have anything to do, and he's waiting for what's his name, Patty, is that what they call him? Go
The
ahead.
the maid guy. Yeah, no, no, no.
Yeah,
I honestly, Patton. Yeah,
Patton. Yeah. You seem way too confused, but I'm telling you that we did not talk about this scene specifically, and this is really crucial. So if
no,
that
I
happened
know, but that's
earlier
I
or
think
if it happened,
I'm trying to keep all of that. I mean, it's hard to keep
you're
it
good.
all 100%.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure he sleeps on the couch that night. So I that's just my opinion. But so we get outside. He goes out to his truck, and you see the friend, the Oaf character, just sitting there, and he's like, "Hey, I quit. What are you doing? Can we go out and work together? We're a good team. And he's
But
like, "I
then, what
don't."
was the point of him still training at all? Then at that point, what was the justification for that?
For who training?
For the main guy, for Patton. Like if the fight was off and we knew that it was off, and like,
He
wh-
went to go get a trainer, and then the fight contract got breached.
right?
And no, maybe you're right then. Maybe you're right because we're missing a whole portion then. Because the fight when okay. No, we skipped a little bit. Okay, so when the fight gets called off, breach of contract, he goes to tell the wife that we made the money, but he does go back to train because that's where um we're missing a big portion
I
here.
know.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
that's what. No, I'm with you as well because yeah, there definitely is a timeline issue in some way, but he does end up back at the gym because yeah, we're gonna get to a portion here where
Not the brother portion. Oh, actually,
no,
that does come first because that
yeah,
happens
yeah.
relatively quickly. Okay, so let's just throw. There's two big portions that happen in the gym. I don't know how we get there. The Oath character, they end up going to the gym together. They run there and they're practicing, and this is where you get Xavier Grau, and he comes into the gym and he demands that we're going to make this fight happen, outside of one championship. I'm suspended, you know and then this is where our main character tells him like, yo, you breached the contract. This is not, I don't have to fight you now. You paid up. All, big ups to you, mate. And then this is where Xavier Grau gets in his face and he's like, I didn't know you were a pussy bitch or whatever kind of deal, that you were going to hide behind the contract. And then we get a little butting heads here, and this is a crucial point because this is where the fight is potentially, could be back on. Like, here's the idea that like, oh, our main character he's going to get the fight either way. That's the way you would think the story goes. He's going to fight him either way. He's going to go beat him over here, yada yada yada. But do you have anything to say about that portion before I get
I
into the
mean
next
that
portion?
was part of why one of the things I was not super satisfied with the villain character is I'm like, this is a champion in one championship. Even if he's suspended, he has to know that it is not a great idea to be trying to initiate a smoker fight with anybody. Like it's not how a champion behaves, to paraphrase Streakus. But yeah, I mean, that was a little annoying, I guess, whatever. And then the other thing that you were kind of getting at was the brother relationship, because the brother does get out of the coma at some point
Yes.
in all of this. And he goes to the
Relatively
gym.
quickly, by the way. It's very quickly, it feels very quick for somebody to just get into a coma and come out of a coma. Let me say
Yeah,
it
this
that
was
way.
a very brief coma. But so yeah, he gets out of it and then he comes back and is not at all grateful for the help from the brother, because the brother, I guess, had abandoned him at one point. And we're gonna find out eventually, like, what this main character, why everybody is like mad at him, including the Russell Crowe character and all of that. But yeah, the brother is not happy about him paying off the debt. And one thing I thought was interesting, and I thought it kind of was a cool note for this film, was like the idea of whose fight it is, like, because the brother comes in and says, that's my fight, like,
That
you're taking my fight away from me.
That's what I like about it too, because when the brother enters the scene, it's actually a pretty slick intro. He kind of like he hits like a little whistle, like a villain whistle, and like the doors open and he gets out the truck because you don't even know who it is. You're like, oh, the villain. He's coming to the gym. Like he's getting his fight. Like I think it was after he, said he wanted to do it, outside of the organization. I think I was like, oh, he's gonna show up and he's gonna come, press him at his own gym. And I was like, oh, here we go with the cage again. But it wasn't the villain, it was the brother. And that's the most interesting thing is I think that this is again where the story could have just went so many simple ways. But the brother comes in and he's like, "Yo, this is my fucking fight. I got my ass whooped. I went into a coma for this. I am coming to fight this dude." And he's like, "Dude, you're clearly not well. You still have black eyes. Your head is still throbbing. Like, chill out." And like the nice girl is in the background, just kind of like she's
Yeah.
she's in the entourage, but she's like so nice to everybody. Like I don't know why she's there, but
That's what I'm
it,
saying. That's why she reminds me of that guy in Roadhouse. But yeah, this was an interesting element of it. Yeah, he wants to like because it was kind of like I liked it, but I thought it was weird because he's saying, "Oh, this is my fight." It's like you had the fight. The
yeah.
fight was what put you in the coma. So what are you talking about? But I don't know.
Yeah, and then so we get a little scuffle between the brothers, and then the younger brother, the villain brother, I guess what you could say, the shit brother,
Yeah, the
he
troubled
leaves.
brother.
The troubled brother, he leaves, and I'm trying to think how we get to the next scene or where we go from here. But so we had those two scenes at the gym, but in a nutshell, the fight is still potentially on the table, and then I think we find the brother leaves and says that he's gonna go make history. He
Well,
is that what happens
that's
here?
that's later on. Yeah, well, we get like a bunch of like
Okay, go ahead.
training going on and everything, like to show that this guy is you get your training montages as you will in these films. You get the ones around this time where the main character is not up to par. He's not the guy that he was 10 years ago. So that's all kind of weighing on everything. Rose, the daughter of the Russell Crowe character, is trying to train him. He's not really coming around to all of that. And then he tries to go and make amends with his brother. That's when they're out like on the run. He like catches him on like that track or whatever that he's running. And
I
then
I wanna I know which one that's the where I was thinking it went to, but I swear we had to have met Russell Crowe by now. How
Oh, we
have we
definitely
not?
did. Yeah, no, we did. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
he does finally come around. And I think that they do have their scene where like he kind of explains what like the backstory of like why he's sort of this persona non grata to people. He's like the brother's mad at him. Basically, what we find out from this main character is that he went to prison. Over a bar fight, I guess is what they say. We
Yeah.
never actually see any of that. It's like if you're going to flash back to different things, maybe could show us some of that, but we don't end up actually seeing any of that. He gets into a bar brawl. It sidetracks his whole career. Then he meets his wife and basically like leaves fighting behind. So he essentially left his entire life behind. Left the gym. He left his brother behind. He left all of that world behind for the wife and the child eventually. And everybody's like, well, you fucking like abandoned us, so yeah, we're not super happy with you right now, dude. But so he's like, he wants to make amends with these people, and so he does. He's trying to do that with Russell Crowe. It's a little hard to do that with him, and then he tries to do it with the brother as well.
Well, the key thing that I want to make a note of, since we did get to meet Russell Crowe, the thing that you'll instantly notice when you do get around to him in the movie, he is rocking the double cane. Does anybody do this? I thought walkers were a thing, guys. I didn't know you would have the cane in one hand, but then also the cane in the other hand, and like walk like stilts kind of deal. I didn't know
Oh
this was
yeah.
a thing.
Yeah, definitely is a thing. Yeah, I mean, I guess with the implication was that he had become disabled at some point over
Yeah.
time. So, yeah, which also another like note for the Russell Crowe, the actor, is like kind of limits his mobility, so he doesn't have to be very dynamic in this film. He kind of just gets to sort of show up in scenes, very limited movement, and act a little bit while he's seated most of the time, and that's about it. That's what you get out of him.
But yeah, so back to the scene that I thought we were at as well, because yes, we did go over some other stuff. But yeah, so we're at the. It's not a beach. It's not a pier. It's a landmark of some sort. I don't fucking know
It's
what
just,
this
yeah, it's
place
like
is.
a walking trail that you can run, I guess. Basically, it's like wooden decks that are like long and oceanside.
And this is where you see the younger brother wearing more pink because his character is, like I said, Curtis Campbell, and he runs up, and this is where we get the brothers meet the interaction. If you are a fan of Warrior, this is the beach scene. This
Right.
is where the brothers have to have their hash off, and this is they're setting up sprinkles, and I actually like this element a lot. And this is unfortunate that they didn't dive deep. I mean, this scene, you'll realize that the brother is suffering from head trauma, and he's, suffering from memory loss and all the other symptoms of, concussions and whatever you want to say, because he's telling him. I mean, you'll see that there's tonal shifts in the brother's attitude at certain points in the movie and between certain scenes. So in this scene, it's not obviously, we just saw them last, fighting with each other, like physically, like the brother punched him, and now they're kind of corridor, like he's telling him, like, this is my favorite place to run. I used to run I used to go, and like he can't like remember where he's at. It's a decently portrayed scene if you go for it. And the our main character's telling him that he needs to get help. Like you can't go along. You gotta just put it down, stop fighting for a little bit until you're ready, yada yada yada. And then the brother just like up and, oh no, he tells him that he wants him to come to his daughter's birthday party. This is gonna lead to a funny scene. I'm really glad we get to talk about the birthday scene. He tells him that he wants his niece to come to his birthday party. You don't even know who she is. And he's like, oh, I know who she is. I've seen a picture of her. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. Love it. Yeah.
Well, I
No, go
mean, it
ahead.
is, yeah. Well, it is showing because at that point, we find out that he had left, or they hadn't talked to him for like 5 years. So it's
Uh-huh.
like, I mean, I think that might have come up at some point earlier or whatever, maybe in some capacity. But like, that's the whole thing, is that he felt abandoned by him, and then he went on to continue his fighting career, and it obviously affected him. He's not the same guy. He's got mental issues going on now, and the main character is trying to fix all these problems that he created in abandoning everybody, and it's not as easy as that. So he's trying. This is the whole thing about the birthday party, and the brother begrudgingly agrees to that. Like he's like, all right, I'll kind of sort of intimates that he will be there. So we basically go right to that. Actually, I think it's kind of a 1-to-1 cut. So we go to the birthday party at that point. Brother does show up, and it's a very quick interaction. Everybody in this film is like, they can't stay around. Like when the main character goes to meet the mafioso guy, can't stay. He goes to talk to the manager guy, can't stay. The brother comes here, can't stay. Like everybody's got other places to be in this film.
I think this scene is the funniest, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So the brother shows up to this birthday party, and he's got a present, and he's got three toys. And he goes up to the main, the main character's daughter, and he's like, "Yeah, I got you. You can have one. I got him at the claw machine or whatever," which is a kind of funny line. But she picks one. He gives one. There's four children here. He gives one to the main girl. He gives one to another. He gives one to another. And there's one kid that doesn't get shit.
Yeah,
And then he just leaves. And
but
then
it
he
was the
leaves.
funny thing with that is that the kid that doesn't get anything, I think that they made a point to have that kid be like, "Nah, I don't want one," because like
Oh
I think
my
he like kind of
goodness.
shakes his head, and I was like, "Why not just have four?"
Yeah, dude, that's so bad. Oh, I couldn't stop laughing at this in theater. I'm like, oh man, that kid didn't get nothing, man.
Yeah,
Jesus.
it was funny. But yeah, so he has this gift, and he gives the gift to the kid, and then he basically just blows the fuck out of there. It was like, yeah,
About to go make
okay.
history.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, I'm gonna go. I got this thing I'm setting up. I'm, about to go make history, whatever. And then he peels out of there, and then we come back to the party later on, and we find out what this present was. What was the present?
Dude, and this is again the redheaded girlfriend of our brother character. This is where she sits there and just holds her emotions until the final fucking moment. So she's sitting there, tears just bubbling in her face, like, and you see the little daughter opening a present, and she opens it, and it's like fucking stacks of money, and she's like, "Oh my god, I'm rich." And you see, Patton, whatever, grab the money. He's like, "Oh my god, where did you get this?" And he looks over at the redheaded girl. She's like, "He took it again. I'm sorry." It's
That
like,
yeah,
oh
that
my.
that was one of the more ridiculous elements of this film, and yeah, why that character is so ineffectual in general. Which, I mean, it's like, again, she's like a meek character, I guess, but like, you're partially complicit in this whole thing, basically, if like the way that this is all set up. So yeah, she opens the package, the money is in there, whatever. They're asking, what's this about? And then she finally is like kind of like breaking down about like, oh, he took another fight, he's taking a fight, and she's basically there to give us the exposition of what he's doing. But it's like, in the reality of this film world, that is a ridiculous thing for you to go there knowing that this is the setup and everything and just be okay with it and let it all unfold as planned. Very
Wait,
ridiculous.
wait for her to open the money too. Like, listen, I gotta tell you, you know what's in that box? You like, he took it the money again. You know why you gotta wait for her to open the money? You gotta
That's what I
wait for him
mean.
to grab it and look at it, count it. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's absolutely ridiculous. Like she could have in that moment, the second he left, she could have been like, "Guys, let me tell you what's going on here." You know what I mean? Like,
because what we're gonna find out here soon. Had she done this 10 minutes earlier, 5 minutes earlier, when we got to the party, when he left to go do his thing, we could have stopped with the inevitable, you know?
yeah, yeah, she could have saved, or she could have prevented a very pivotal plot point here. But so yeah, so that we find that out. We find out that the brother has taken another fight. We find out that the brother took another fight in an underground, unsanctioned, fucking warehouse, a
No,
fight situation.
this was like a shipping yard or
Yeah,
something.
some industrial area, whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it is again, this is one of the elements of the movie that I don't I like in 2026. I can't get behind these kinds of things anymore. I'm kind of done with them. It's the idea of like it was a $10,000 per ticket special event at this shipping yard where it was going to be the main villain guy fighting the brother, which I'm like, first of all, they literally just fought in one championship. Why is this happening again in an underground setting? Second of all, $10,000 per ticket to watch this up close and personal. I guess maybe in some reality tracks to some extent, but like I just don't see it being reality. Third of all, and I think most crucial to why I think this is ridiculous, everybody's got the phone. You literally at one point see the POV shot of the live streaming of it. So what the fuck is the point of paying 10 grand to sit there and watch it in person when it's being live streamed in full on real time? Like this is not even a thing that's like, I mean, maybe you could say maybe it's pay-per-view or something like that. I don't know. You can explain it away, but my point is that it's like this is a special event engagement for $10,000 a ticket that is also going out on the internet like any other fighting event.
Yeah, no, and this one is an interesting scene because, you know, we get the setup where we're just in on like a shipping yard, like I said, and you get the manager, he lets our villain know, you know, do one of those spinny thingies, you know, to go, we need views, you know, go ahead and hit him with one of those spinny things
Saying
and
milk the fight to
milk the
give them
fight.
their money's worth here.
Absolutely. Yeah, they paid 10 grand, might as well give them something. And this is where you get to see, and I like the villain character. I think right place, right time. I don't think there'll be many more that we see of him per se, but in this scene specifically, if you remember in Bloodsport at the end of the movie where they're just like, show us any kick you can do, we'll just record it and we'll put it in the movie if it looks good enough. They let this dude do about just anything that he could do. And to be fair, he's a pretty muscular guy. If you look at the people that are all middleweights, by the way, this is a middleweight division movie. Our main villain is ginormous, like a DDP style build, and then our brother is like the skinniest person you've ever seen in the movie. There was a point where he looked like horribly frail. Obviously, just got out of a coma. And then our main character, which I don't know if you got this either. They and Ozzy as well. I think they were trying to give us some Volk vibes with our main character. I think Patton kind of had the Volk look. I think this
Yeah, I could kind of see that a little bit, I guess,
obviously not as short. You can't do that for a movie, but like this, I feel like this was a very Volk inspired like mannerisms kind of. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, now that you say that, I can kind of see it, I guess.
But maybe that's just the Aussies. But either way, so yes, we get the villain. He showcases all of these kicks that he could do, and like you've said before, it's very choreographed. I the main thing that I have to say about the fighting is I'm very, especially the training is not as bad with this, but the fight scene specifically, the camera work is just not good. It's too close. It's chopped up to bits. There's not much that you can, you know, see. There are some good shots when our villain does a lot of his stuff because I think he's a lot more able to do it for the big screen than say our main character was able to and or the brother. The brother was actually really good at the grappling sequences when it came to like the on-screen stuff because what you'll see in this fight if if there was an equivalent to, and here's your pro wrestling for the day. If there was an equivalent to AEW where it's just like do finishers and moves that people know and like to see over and over again, but there's no story really being told of it. This was kind of this fight scene. They were just doing moves. They were just doing the moves. Every move didn't really lead to something until it did. We'll talk about, what happens towards the end of this, but this little scuffle they have, you've already seen the villain beat him in the cage already.
Well,
So
that's
he
that.
obviously beats him outside the cage.
Well, and that was the thing that was a little. I mean, again, maybe you could read it as a nitpick, but I really don't think it is. We saw him get annihilated in the cage in a
Yeah.
title fight in the big organization, because in this film, one championship is the highest of the high, which, fine, fair enough. That's what it's supposed to be, all good. But he got annihilated in that fight. He fares way better in this fight. Like, he does. I mean, like, this fight goes on. Now you could say, oh, it's just because the main the villain guy is letting it happen that way, which I think is to an extent okay of that. But there are times where he does get the better of him. He slams him through a table at one point. So I mean,
That yeah, that was a WWE move now, wasn't it?
yeah, for sure. And I mean, and going to show that, like, that he's at least able to get the upper hand at certain points. Maybe you could say that that was the villain letting it get away from him a little bit. But my point is that it's like, yeah, this is an unnecessary addition to all of this, because they already fought, he already lost. Now we're having this version of a fight where it's more of an actual competition than it was in the real organization. It just seemed a little bit odd, and with all of those elements being in play.
Yeah, and then so obviously we get an extended fight scene outside of the cage. I think this is not that bad of a fight scene. Honestly, it's cool if the camera wasn't so close and doing so many different cuts. But the villain, once again, I mean, he was putting on his best Jean-Claude Van Grau or whatever you want to call it. He was doing some really good stuff. Again, for as big of a dude he is, he was doing some really good kicks on screen. So I want to give him major props.
Yeah, and I like I said earlier, I know that when you talk about the camera work being close, like, I mean, I think that it's just like a lot of the current era style of the editing makes it such. But like, I thought that the portrayal of the actual fighting in this film was pretty okay overall. Like, I thought it was serviceable most of the time.
Serviceable, yes, but you couldn't. You listen. If like we're this close and you're seeing this portion of me, yeah, I'm throwing a punch. But like, if you
Eh,
see that back to back to back,
But
I mean,
I don't think that there was like that much of that though. I thought that there was
it,
enough where it was like you saw the actual action going
I
on.
I put this on my life that the cage, blood sport. Well, blood sport's a little different because it's more dance fucking choreographed. But KO, even Roadhouse, you had much more clear visuals of what's going on, and the only shots that weren't very clear were the heavily choreographed ones, like the one where he picks him up, slams him through the table. Like, yeah, that one you could get on screen because that's a. But when it comes to like the striking itself, a lot of the scenes, especially with our main two, when it came to the villain, he did very good not hurting the other guy, but looking like he was like punching them kind of deal. The other two guys, I just don't think that they were able to sell it on screen enough that they didn't have to, zoom in a lot and make it look, I don't know, make it not look as if it's bad. I don't know. That's
Fair
my
enough.
opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I maybe you could say that in this fight at times, I guess. But I thought the what we'll talk about in the main fight, I thought was pretty okay with some of that, even though it was going at, like I said, 3x speed.
The
But
main fight was fine.
all right, fair enough. For this, then, yeah, they're fighting, in this unsanctioned underground setting or whatever, and it gets out of hand, basically, is what ends up happening here. The brother starts getting the better of the villain guy, and he starts turning up to the point that he knocks him into some piece of industrial equipment, which you could certainly expect to be something that could happen. This is another reason why I think fights like this are a little ridiculous, to think that you were supposed to be believing this is a realistic thing that could happen. You're fighting. There wasn't even a mat. Like, they were literally fighting on fucking wooden planks, wooden slats on this
Yeah.
floor.
It was actually like grating. Like you could
Yeah.
hear like the echoing underneath it. It was
So
kind
there
of
you go. I mean, like, it was just, this is no kinds of trappings of any kind of actual, like, combat sports environment here. So sure. I mean, I always remember Bill Burr talking about, like, why you should never fight inside of a bathroom. It's because of all the hard edges and angles and things that you could knock yourself into and hurt yourself really, really badly. That is this times 10. You know what I mean? Like this fucking like this is it was almost inevitable that something like what eventually happens is going to happen. But so basically the our main character is going to try to stop this fight. He's trying to infiltrate this thing to get in to stop his brother from fighting or whatever, try to intervene, so to speak. And he is not in time. The brother ends up hitting his head on a piece of industrial equipment and essentially dies. I mean, he just bleeds out.
Yeah, and it's a pretty decent amount of blood work that they had going here. The little gash looked good. Like he fell, hit his head, and like he's stumbling around holding his head, leaking out. Like it was a pretty decently drawn out scene. But then you have to go back and you remind yourself that his girlfriend literally is the reason that they didn't get there 2 minutes before to stop this, because they're weaving through the people like, stop, no, please. And he's already bleeding out, like falling, dying. So he obviously gets to him right as he's dead, kind of deal. And like 2 seconds earlier, maybe a red light or two that you ran, you could have made it here. So it's unfortunate. Like it would have. It's a movie, guys. So obviously he's got to show up right when the dude fucking dies. But that's just how it is. You see all the other people slink away, like we just
Yeah,
fucking killed somebody.
nobody making any kinds of attempts to call for any kind of help or anything.
Yeah,
They all just sort of like, oh, I guess it's my time to get the fuck out of here, and they all
yeah.
do.
Yo, they definitely do. And yeah, this one you get to see some emotion from the main character. He and then I mean after this, do we go right to the funeral after this?
Directly. That's another thing about this film of like they don't really like do any kind of like chop ups of like time or anything, which I guess to an extent is not the worst thing. It is a very linear story in that way, but like it really is like if this guy dies, the funeral is next.
Yeah.
If I say go, if I say that the birthday party is tomorrow or Monday at 5 o'clock, then next scene is Monday at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like set up and payoff very quickly, very rapidly. So yeah, we end up at the funeral and yeah, the one championship lady is there and she's telling him how great of a fighter the brother was and how great of a fighter he is. Main character she's talking to, and I'm like, we saw the brother get his ass kicked now twice, and we've never seen this guy fight in in active competition at all in this film so far up until this point.
True. And then as he's talking to the one championship lady, you get to see our wife character. She's looking over and she's giving the side eye like, "Oh my god, he's talking to you know who, like, please God, don't let it be true." And then I think after this we get a montage of him drinking.
Well, that's the thing. So yeah, okay, I'm glad that you set it up that way. When the wife asks what was that about, she saw him talking to the one championship lady, and he's like, "It was nothing." I'm like, lady, get off of this guy's ass. I like it is so like I get really very sick of these types of relationship dynamics because especially in this version of it, like granted, I've seen it so many times that maybe I'm just so used to it that I'm just like, shut up already. That's me. That can be a personal thing. But with this one, it's annoying because he literally you already went through all this shit. You already went through, I lied to you. I'm sorry about that. We got the money. We're out of it, whatever. She sees him having a conversation and instantly goes back down that same line of discussion. It's like, could you stop? Could you fucking stop? This guy is out here on a goddamn fishing vessel trying to make a living for you people. Like, the wife, the kid now, and the new kid on the way. Could you please not be this way?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, I think, the scene where I started to question how long has it been, because the baby is not coming along in any regard. I mean, she hasn't changed one bit. She didn't get like the bump yet at this point. And so you would presume that a coma happened, out of a coma, death, funerals take a long time. I mean, not a long time, but like, whatever you want to say.
I mean, yeah, this is the span of maybe like a month max,
Yeah.
is what it feels
So
like at least.
and then so the next scene where we get to the drinking, this is really funny because it starts off with him in his garage whittling wood. Like it was, he's just a man whittling wood at this point. It's
The
pretty funny.
woodworker over here. Yeah, he's kind of just I don't know, like a model of some sort maybe, but yeah, he was doing some kind of woodworking, listening to
But
music. Said, "No, turn it up the music. I don't want to talk to you right now."
yeah, but the way they set this up was interesting because I thought that they were going to go down the route like she leaves him, because when you see her in this first initial scene, he's whittling his wood and she's talking to him, but you can't hear him. The music's playing or whatever. and then he picks up the bottle, and then she like grabs her bag and like she walks out. So I was like, oh, she's leaving, you know, she's leaving him now that he's an alcoholic. But then later in the montage, she's like next to him in bed. I'm like, oh shit, no, she is, no, she's still there, she's still hanging around. They're a good marriage, you know, they're good, you know, not a little bit of alcohol can ruin this one.
Yeah, I mean, and okay, you know, and what will eventually end up happening with the wife character, I do think is yet another one of like, if you want to say, based on the type of movies that we have seen in this genre, I think it's an okay evolution of the character because she basically after all of this drinking happens, she sees how distraught he is. At the funeral, like right after the funeral is over, the villain rolls up on him real quick and just sort of gives him like the side eye so you can see that this is kind of like an evil guy over here, you know, like taunting him while he's at the funeral of the brother. And then there's also an interview that the villain does throughout all of this where he basically says like, yeah, you know, I didn't want him to die. Of course, I feel bad about him dying, but he did sign a waiver. So it's like, you know, I don't really feel all that responsible. And it's really the person you should really be blaming is his pussy ass brother for not taking the fight that I had set up with him. And so it's like he's really antagonizing, like goading the main character on into this fight. So all of this is weighing on our main character. He's drinking. The wife is seeing all of this. You know, he's having like night terrors. He wakes up in the middle of the night at one point, like all freaked out. You know, this is definitely weighing heavily on his psyche. So finally, the wife ends up coming around and she's like, look, you know, I don't like the fighting stuff that you do. I don't like this fighting shit. But like, if it's what you need to do at this point, like, just go do it. And I was like, okay, I mean, I at least can like say that that's somewhat interesting that you like had the wife finally come around to it. We now, granted, in Warrior, we did see that too. The wife finally does end up coming around at the, you know, like towards the end there. You know, like she goes to the fight in that film. So it's like it's not unheard of that that character would do that, but like for the type of way that they set up this character, I was like, okay, at least he's not going to just be like this one note character throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, it must be pretty easy to say, go ahead and go do that now that I'm $50,000 richer. Go ahead, husband, go do whatever the fuck you want. Now that I'm cool, I'm taken care of. You know,
Right.
it's just how it goes, man. It's just how it goes. So she
Well,
tells him, get off the bottle and go do
that
the fight.
and that's the thing is it's like, yeah, it's more of her being like, you know, I can't see you like torn up this way anymore or whatever. But yeah, I could see the other side of that too. You know, it's like, yeah, obviously it's easy to say that now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I'm trying to think of what we get after this scene. Do we go back to training? We get some training
Training,
hard.
yep, more,
Yep.
and now he's actually like taking it seriously, so he's becoming more of the guy he used to be. And there's this one scene where he call back to the cage where they do the multi-man sparring. You know, it's
Yeah.
like he's the one guy and he's got multiple guys coming at him. And I felt terrible for these training partners. These are his, you know, his teammates basically. And he just
Knocking them out.
annihilates them. He annihilates three guys in the gym. I was like, that is not a great portrayal of you know, teamsmanship, sportsmanship in a team capacity.
And then the best part about this one is you get to see Rosie lean over to Russell Crowe and she's like, he's so crazy. Oh my god, he's an animal in there. And it's like, oh my god. Oh my god, he was so bad earlier and you just made it seem like it was because he just didn't care enough. Like he's old, guys. I don't know. Like you could have made him a little younger. Like I don't know.
That well, and that's always going to be one of the overarching points of all of this is that, yeah, I mean, like, granted, they make him out to have been one of the best of all time. You know, he's best middleweight in one championship at one time, whatever. He still is 10 years removed from the sport, a sport that moves insanely quickly. They say that in the film. Oh, the sport's so different. You know, it's like you're going to be in there in a way that you've never been in it before. And like, yeah, that's way fucking true. Like that's truer than you could ever make it out to be. Like 10 years is a fucking eon. It's an eternity in this sport. So, you know, that's like when they have honestly, like one of the things I was thinking in the back of my mind as we were getting to the final showdown kind of thing, I thought literally they were either going to have him shave his beard or fill in the grays in his beard for exactly the point that you make about like people with grays. It's just like when you have the grays, you're probably at a point where it's like you're maybe on the other side of things.
Yeah.
And so I thought that would have been like one way that you could at least signal that he is maybe still that guy, like, you know, but like they didn't end up doing that. So he's just in there, grayed up. And yeah, I mean, like, you know, we're just supposed to go along with the idea that like after 10 years removed from the most brutal sport in existence, that you could somehow just come back and be that beast again.
Yeah, with in prison, mind you. It's not like you just stepped away to go train. No, you were not training one bit. You were in prison, mate. You have no facilities.
Well, they did say though that he was fighting every day in prison, so he was
We
getting
did
real
have that
world.
portion of it,
Yeah, he
and
was
I've
getting
made that
real
point
world
before.
experience.
This is a great line in the movie because I've always said this. I'm like, "Yo, isn't prison just waking up and fighting every day?" And he's like, "Every other day I was fighting for my life." And I was like, "This movie knows what I'm talking about, man. Love it."
Yeah. Yeah, it was
So
sure. And actually, if there was a scene in this film that I did like, I thought was pretty good, that actually had some decent lines in it. Of course, Russell Crowe is still a good actor at the end of the day, no matter how little you decide to use him. So there was the scene in The Office. This was we already kind of talked about it, but just to bring it up one more time here, where he was giving the backstory of all the prison stuff and like why he did what he did. I thought Russell Crowe was very good. Just because he is just a good actor. So it's like, what you're saying Russell Crowe's not a good actor? What's the facial
I
expression?
well, one, not the greatest I've seen, of course, past his
Well,
time, I would
he
say.
doesn't
But
do much in the film, so it's like it's hard to say that he is. But for this scene, I thought he was good.
this scene though it was stupid to me because this is a guy who's talking to somebody who just spent the last 10 years in prison and he's mad at him for
He
not
was no. He was only in prison for 2 years, but he was that's the whole thing. He was in prison for 2 years, was fighting for that, and then he like left his life behind him. So it's like, yeah, he'd been
but
out
like
for 10 total.
I also, again, this dude just spent 2 years in prison. How self-centered are you that I know he up and left and got a new whole life. That's fine. He just spent 2 years in prison. Do you want him to go back to the life that he was before? Like, if he didn't contact you when he got out of prison, mate, maybe this is a sign. Maybe this is a sign, Mr. Russell Crowe. I don't know. I don't know, guys.
Yeah,
This scene right
perhaps.
here was interesting because he was mad at the dude who, like, why are you mad at your star pupil? Like, bro, you should, you wanna help people learn so they can move on to do better things. Like, this is that Eddie Hearn shit. Like, bro, just because somebody wants to do better doesn't mean they hate you. Like, they don't care. Like, bro, it's just a different set of circumstances, different point of life. This is a great portion right here because it shows you just how much people think that they like own your fucking life. I don't know, bro. This is
See, but
crazy.
this is like a personal thing with you, though, man. I don't know. You seem to have this like callousness about like people who help you don't deserve anything once they've helped you. Like, I mean,
I
that's
I mean,
he
listen.
literally he says I built this entire gym for you, and all I needed was a phone call from you to tell me what was up. Like again, I don't understand why a phone call is so big of a stretch for you, Chase. But
Dude spent 2 years in prison. He don't know how to use phones, man.
okay,
I don't
well then
know.
there you go. But either way, I mean that's just a little aside. I thought what he said in the scene was pretty good, and it establishes why. I mean, I can understand. Yeah, it's like if he did want like need to leave his other life behind, then fair enough. But if you do have people depending on you, like, and you are the star that had, we've built a life together as a team here, like. That I think that there is a modicum of respect that you owe the people around you to at least call them, at least tell them, hey, I'm not coming back.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't know.
But
I think this was
regardless,
just an interesting scene.
fair enough. So, but I mean, but going back to the actual main storyline where we're at here. So yeah, he's taking all of this more seriously now. Rosie's, doing her thing. She's actually, she is acknowledging how great he's becoming, and it's looking like he's actually going to be like fight ready.
They never actually treat Rosie like she's actually a coach, by the way. That's the unfortunate part is like even in the final sequence which we'll talk about, they have a voiceover of Russell Crowe instead of her giving the final speech. So like it's always as if she's just supposed to be like in place of Russell Crowe because
That's
he can't
literally
actually do it.
It's literally it. Yeah, I mean, I think that they basically like make it that apparent like that she is like the conduit of him, of Russell Crowe, but like he's still alive and he's still there. Like that's the part. Like when we get to the final fight stuff, I mean, like that's the thing that was craziest to me. Like I swear to God, they reused like one of his reaction shots twice.
Yeah.
Like because yeah, we end up getting out to the fight. I mean, because what else happens before that at this point? I mean, like we're basically getting to the final fight at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So okay.
absolutely.
So yeah, if we're already there, then we're already there. So yeah. So
Well, and actually, because it goes right back to what we saw at the beginning. Basically, it's almost verbatim the exact same shot where he's looking in the mirror. I'm pretty sure this
right.
is how we get. He's like almost vomiting because of the nerves. He's looking up in the mirror, and then that's where we get to the final sequence kind of deal. We're walking into this last fight here.
Yeah, so I mean, like, yeah, so yeah, we end up at the title fight. I mean, like, we go right into this now. It's the cornering is. I thought that that was crazy too. Yeah, the corner is Rosie, Rose, the girl, and then the big Ophi guy is the other
Yep.
corner guy, and no cut man as well. I don't know. Is that's is that a thing in one? Did they, I mean that they like maybe I because I feel very strange even having to say that out loud. It does not seem like I would think that they would have like cut people in the corners.
Yeah, I think they do. Fuck, I
I
don't
know, yeah. It's
know.
like it makes me question it now. I mean, I've watched one, a million times, and now I've got to question it because why would they not show that in the film? But the Rose is doing the cut work as well, so it was just very strange with that. Like there were only two people besides the fighter in the corners at any time,
Yeah.
for these fighters. So yeah, but so now we're in the title fight. It is our Xavier Grau, who is the current champion,
No,
and
I'm
Pat.
sorry. There's one thing that I want to mention. So while they're doing the walkouts, I don't know if you saw our favorite one referee was in the he
Oh,
was
yeah, I did want to say that. Yeah, shout out to CTE. CTE is going to be very happy that our dude Olivier Coste gets a little bit of a shine here.
hell yeah. So he was definitely in the cage, but unfortunately, as the fight commences, we do not get to see an actual one officiator. We get to see our residential UFC Herb Dean calling this fight here,
Yeah,
buddy.
the recognizable face. Now Herb Dean has called fights in one championship, so it's not like it's completely a stretch, but it is a little ridiculous that like if you need a referee, you're getting Herb Dean because he's the guy that everybody knows.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that Olivier Coste got any kind of point there. But again, this is like why this is a weird amalgamation of the film where it's like it's the one championship movie, but you strip away a whole bunch of like what actually makes one championship what it is.
There's the monster logo too in the middle. Like it's almost like they tried to make it a UFC octagon.
Did they? I didn't even notice that the
Oh,
monster logo
dude,
is on there.
100%. Big
Oh
monster
wow,
logo right in the middle.
that's wild. I did not even recognize
Oh,
that. Holy
we
shit.
didn't there was one more thing relevant to one, and this is one of the only other things that they have other than the beginning where they show some of the Asian fighters. I don't know their names, but they are most likely some people that are on the roster. When we are walking into the cage, we get to meet Demetrius Johnson for a handshake, a hug. That's it.
Hell yeah, you get a little cameo from the champ. You get a cameo from the legend, and yeah, then good on you, bro. Good to see you,
Yep.
because because that is all that he gets. We also did get to see. I thought that this was kind of nice as a one fan. We got to see a crowd shot. This is something in one championship that has always been kind of interesting to me. Like, so that they have got those little like wrist things. I think it's on the wrist or whatever. They got those little like light up LED things that like makes the whole crowd look like a sea of those like blue dots. We got to see from the crowd perspective of that, which I was like, that kind of was cool because like I'm like one does a really good job of blacking everything out in the background. Like you don't see the crowd in one championship very often.
Yeah.
So like I thought that was neat. But then in the fight, they left the blue dots on, which now again I'm like second guessing myself because I thought that generally they black everything out for the actual fighting. But in this, of course, it's a movie. I'm okay with that part of it because it
This
did
is a
look kind
different
of cool.
stadium though. This isn't the Lupini Stadium, so I guess the lighting would be different, I guess, but
Well, but it's those little things that they give to the crowd though. Those little
wow.
like dots. They just like I thought that they black those out for the fights, but either way, whatever. The point is that I think that those look cool in one. They've got all of those little LED lights throughout the crowd. Those are on for the fight, so it gives it a kind of a cool look. And yeah, so I mean, I thought that the final fight here was pretty well choreographed, but very choreographed and very fast. That was the big note for me was that it's like I appreciate that they were doing recognizable mixed martial arts technique and moves, and the striking I thought looked pretty good. The impact of the striking looked good. It didn't look like they were pulling punches too much. So it's like I thought that the actual like the vibe of the fighting was solid, but because it's a film and they got to make it as action packed and heart pounding as possible, they like just it was one after the next. It's boom, transition, boom, here, blah blah blah. I'm like fighting. The reason I like fighting is because it's exciting as is. Like I don't need you to ramp it up into cartoon territory to make it more exciting for me. It's the same note that I had in Warrior when I did not like the tosses and the suplexes and shit because fighting is already good. I don't need you to turn it into WWE to make it more exciting here.
Yeah, this last fight, I wish I had more to note because I mean, like you said, the what you would call the first round. I mean, it's the longest of what you get of the round fight in this, championship fight. And the first round is just a bunch of shit happening. They just do shit. They just punch each other, punch back, punch each other, punch back, do a couple kicks, do a Van Damme move, take it down, take down, do a couple grappling sequences, go for a triangle, go for an armbar, break out the armbar, get a shot of Rosie saying, yeah. And like that's basically all that first one is. The main thing to note is when we get to the end of the second round. So the end of the second round is where our villain gets a rear naked choke on our hero. And it is fully locked in. He is going to sleep and you get a shot of Russell Crowe looking at the TV. Don't give up, kid. Don't do it. And then the lights go out and he's like having a flashback of him and his brother. And then he wakes up and the fight, the round ends. And you got Xavier, pointing at him like he's out, he's out, he's out, which is a really good. I like that detail. I really like the he's out because the fight's over. That is a technical submission right there. This dude is completely out, breathing hard as hell, like he's unconscious, on face down on the mat. Herb Dean apparently he's not even just looking. He's looking over at fucking Xavier because the fight continues to go on after this man was just
I
submitted
would say
unconscious.
A for realism, Herb not paying attention. But no, yeah, that was a crazy point to all of this. Yeah, he was dead to rights, out. He gets saved by the horn, quote unquote, but then he doesn't get back up for quite some time. So if any referee had seen that, they'd be over him, looking at him like, "Get up! If you don't get up, I'm stopping this fight," and they would have stopped the fight. So yeah, that is a little ridiculous note.
I think I want to go ahead and give hats off to the casual audience because I think this is for them as well. If you make it to the bell, oh, he's good. Nobody's really the casual audience who's going to see this in theater. Do they want to sit here and think like, well, why was the fight? Why was the fight? He made it to the bell. Like in their mind, they made it to the end of the round. There's no extra stuff happening after. I don't know. That's the way that I would
Well,
say.
yeah, and like I hear you on this when it comes to the casual audience, but like it gets to the point with those kinds of elements where I'm like, is it like are these kinds of films even like things that the casual audience gravitates towards? And if it's not, then is it enough for the fight fan audience? You know what I mean? Like, but I guess that's a point we can kind of come back to.
Yeah, I was gonna
Uh,
say. I mean, you saw the people in your theater, versus mine. It's not necessarily just fight people. It seems, maybe they are. We didn't ask them, but
Yeah,
like,
all 10 of them. Yeah, I know,
yeah,
I know what you mean, though. Yeah, no, fair enough, fair enough. You're right. I mean, I guess that there are definitely some people that will just watch a movie like this and maybe not know enough about it to just go along with those kinds of ideas.
yeah,
But this is the big but with all of this. He got his ass kicked, our main character, for
yes,
two full rounds.
hmm
So, and this is a dude who has been out of the game for 10 years, obviously an older guy in the grand scheme of things. And when it comes to this sport, so he's down 2 rounds. But of course, we know in one championship, fights are scored as an entire fight. That's a detail that only true fight people are going to know. There's no way the casual audience would ever know that. But like, I'm glad then that they end this fight with a knockout to at least satisfy that, because had this gone to a decision, there is no way that he was going to win this fight. So that I think is at least good in that regard. But basically, for you to try to sell me on the idea that this dude has just gotten annihilated, and also one other big fact
yes,
here,
go for it.
he gets a very blatant eye poke in the third round that essentially blinds him. He's like, "Oh, I'm okay, I'm okay." He turns to his team. They're like, "Can you see?" He's like, "No, I definitely cannot see."
It's actually it's even more slick. It's actually more realistic than you guys would ever imagine. So he goes for the one, pokes him hard in the eye, and then punches him right in the eye. So it was a pretty good one. He's like, no fucking let up. This is absolutely perfect. And then he walks away saying it was legal. He's like, what?
Yeah.
So good stuff.
Yeah, no,
Good stuff.
exactly. So I mean, fair enough on all of that. He is supposed to be a dirty fighter. That all made sense or whatever. But so now you've got a dude who's gotten his ass kicked for 2 rounds, who is out of the game for 10 years, just coming back, older guy, and he's, visually impaired at this point.
Yes.
So it's like, I mean, this is all of the cards are stacked against him, and then he essentially just sees red. He basically just goes into literal beast mode here, and somehow, some way ekes out the knockout victory.
And yeah, so after the eye poke, it's actually quite interesting because so he can't see. He's kind of fighting like this, which is real. Like I don't know what the. But
Oh,
anyway, so
that was yeah. Where he had like the super high guard as
yeah,
well, which is like, bro. I mean, like if not good optics for any of this. Like,
yeah. So he
but
kept
okay.
getting punched after that. He was getting beat up, and then essentially lands one or two punches that just sits the villain down. I mean, it really wasn't anything that made you think like, "Holy crap, he overcame something crazy. He beat the hell." No, he just like punched him once. The dude fell, and that was the fight. That was it. The fight got called.
And
So I
so what I will say to this is that if you want to talk about subversion of expectations, because I was really thinking about this after I watched this movie, you know, in the evening time when I was at home, like contemplating all of this. In the grand scheme of things, this is actually somewhat unique because if you go through the films that we have watched on MMA on film so far, it is very rare that you actually just get the dude overcome the odds and just win the fight outright. Like if you go back to Bruised, you know, Halle Berry did not win her fight there. You go back to Warrior. Now, granted, obviously Brandon wins in Warrior, but Tommy was kind of the one that it would have been more of the overcoming story if he had won, and that's a whole unique thing with the brothers anyway. So I think you can't really even class that the same way. Bloodsport, I guess, is a little bit different because it's a whole different type of story or whatever. But you know, that is kind of its own world there too. It's very rare that in this world that you just have like guy, you know, starts off, has, you know, the story that he has, and then just outright wins the fight. He comes back to win. Like, so because a lot of times they think that you know that that's going to happen, so they subvert your expectations that way. But in this one, they just didn't. So I mean, like, it's almost the reverse reversal. You know, it's the double change up.
yeah, no, this one is interesting because yeah, after he knocks him out, I mean, celebration ensues, and we get to see there's one thing that I want to know. Obviously we get the wife at home, she's having a good time, she finally came across her husband winning, the blah 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 blah. After he wins, thank god, we love him. Anyway,
Always.
the villain walks over to try to like shake the hero's hand after this, and then they just cut it out. Like, so he like walks over and like, to like, but then they just don't do anything with it. Like, it just, next scene he's nowhere to be found.
It's
So
funny that you say that too, because he also is clapping for him during the announcement read, which I was like, you'd think after everything that they just went through that this type of a villain would not be the sportsman now, you know?
right, yeah, I was very, I was a
Killed
little.
his fucking brother for fuck's sake. I mean,
Dude, that's what I'm saying. It's like, yo, what are you walking over to give him props for on beating you, bro? You murdered his brother, like, and no repercussions, by the way, all because he signed a
he
waiver.
signed a waiver, bro. That's all you need to do is you sign a waiver and you can die.
Well, it goes back to Warrior. What happened with Tommy after? Did he go to
Well,
prison?
funny that you should bring up Warrior now because yes, you get the celebration. You also get this very specific note from Dom Lau, the announcer, to say he is not only the champion now of one championship after coming out of nowhere essentially to go reclaim the belt, but also $3 million richer. He specifically notes, you know, so yes, a $3 million prize here while these guys are making $350,000 in bots, but you know, or 350,000 bot, you know, for these guys who win their fights generally. But this guy's getting $3 million. I was like, is that US dollars or is that Australian dollars? I don't know. Either way, but then just done.
Just it.
Just done. I mean, like, this is one of those much like Warrior, where it's just now granted this film like different from Warrior, this film there are less like loose ends to tie up, I would say. So this one is like not as unsatisfying that it is just the end, but it is very like it's one of those times where you see it go to black and you're like, are they really going to do it? And then they just fucking did it. They legitimately just did it. It is he wins the belt and the movie is over.
Yeah, no, 100%. The last thing I wanted to know before the movie concludes, of course, is we did get a shot of Mr. Chatri. We did get a shot of Mr. Chatri. He handed the belt over to our hero. So I wanted to
Nice.
go ahead and make a note. I also, and this is bad on us for not bringing this up because it wasn't really that big of a plot point, but it is something to note. So the Pink Panther brother had a mouthpiece that said "fuck you" on it.
Right.
Okay, so when he died, our Patty character took the mouthpiece and then he wore it for the final fight. It's in the poster here. I don't actually think it says "fuck you" on the poster here,
No,
though.
well, that's going to say they definitely don't have it in the poster because they definitely would never allow a mouthpiece that says "fuck you" on it to ever be worn in active competition ever. So it's like that is funny that you say that because like it does kind of set all of the whole thing about one is a respectable organization. That's all of the commission people were saying. It's like they would never allow that. Like, you're not gonna have profanity on a fucking mouthpiece. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that is like a plot point that does come back there. Yeah, fine, I guess. You know, a little bit of a. I thought it was cute, I guess, and when it first was shown, but to have that be a thing that comes back around, just like was like okay, whatever. And then yeah, it does kind of throw off the whole dynamic with one championship. Also, you did mention Chatri. I did want to also note that at the funeral, the one championship lady did say, yes, you know, I'm talking to the main character. She's like, oh yeah, you know, Mr. Chatri sends his regards. You know, he's very upset that he wasn't able to make it. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, so anyway, yeah, of course, Chatri Sitchitong gets his praise as the main guy.
I actually think I'll have to say it. You know, as a movie that's in co-production with One Championship, I was a little upset with the Asian representation in this film. I feel like we did not get because when you go back to Bloodsport, you have so many different regions and religions that are portrayed that are just there, that are just in the amalgamation or whatever. But like we could have just had, you know, like the lady for the one commission, why wasn't she an Asian lady? I don't know. Like the only Asian really lady that we had was the wife, and I don't know. Like I think that's what she was supposed to be.
I thought that she was like a native islander kind of, I believe, you know, like Australian native.
Filipino? I don't know.
I don't know either, honestly. But either way, Polynesian is what I thought. But regardless, what I say about one championship in this film, for a co-producer of this film, it was not a an accurate to life portrayal of the product. What it was product placement. That is
Mhm.
what one championship was in this film. They made a very big point to say one championship over and over again. It was on the gloves, it was the circle, you know, the circle ring, cage, whatever. Like it was, you know, all of those elements were there, but to actually portray one championship's culture, it was almost none of that. It really wasn't anything of the actual, like you get the announcer, you get the commentators, you get the circular cage and the name of the organization. Other than that, like I was waiting. Well, that's funny too. I in the when they the opening credits were going, I was waiting to see Rod Tang. I was waiting to see Stamp. I was waiting to see any known one championship fight. Doesn't even have to be an Asian fighter necessarily. Just somebody that's over there. Fucking what's his name? The Scottish guy, the Muay Thai guy or whatever. That's big over there now.
Gregor Tom or something like that.
Sure, exactly. Take your pick. There's plenty of them right now. I mean, you know, people that we would know. Fucking Hugh would have been great to see the kickboxer. You know, like my point is that like yeah, as far as like actual representation of like one as we know it, it really was not that. It was a coat of one paint over this production that really could have been any fight organization.
No, absolutely. I think that was the biggest thing that I was wondering when I first saw this is like what is one's actual affiliation other than just slapping their name on it? But they did actually have things that they filmed that were, you know, Demetrius Johnson. That's a one championship thing. And while that could also be, you know, swapped over and that could have been a UFC thing, like if they would have just switched all the labels over, it's like, oh yeah, it's UFC. But like Demetrius Johnson wouldn't have been in that position to represent for the UFC in a movie, if that makes sense. Like they filmed for one that specific scene kind of deal.
For sure. And yeah, and the final fight taking place with all of the LED lights in the crowd, that's a one thing. And it is very cool looking. So, I mean, that part of things, like, sure, it's enticing. But like, what I'm trying to say is that, like, if I'm a casual viewer of this film and I'm not really a fight person, does this give me the impression of what I'm going to see if I do tune into one championship? Does this compel me to watch one championship? And B, if I do watch it, is it what I was expecting necessarily? I don't know if that actually lines up necessarily.
Oh no, this is not. You're not going to get anything like this when you watch one, specifically because they're mostly Muay Thai. Again, this is a mixed martial arts bout movie kind of deal, and Muay Thai, generally speaking, is Muay Thai. So this is it's. You're not going to see anything like this, really. To be fair, I mean, you get one or two mixed martial arts bouts a week, and they don't look anything like this, and they're not 5 rounds, and you know, like so. There's just too many different stipulations, and they're for the most part. I mean, there are you know a handful of Australians and New Zealanders that are in one, but I feel like out of the ones to choose to represent, like you, it is a smaller representative area in one out of all the other regions that you could have picked. So for that being, I mean, they did. take a leap and they're like, all right, we're going to bring more Australian eyes to to one championship. And I guess they did their part here. I To be fair though, I think what they kind of messed up on, and just like you were talking about with the young son and his father, going to the movies, this did not need to be R-rated. This could have been PG-13 to a certain extent, and I think potentially you could have got more eyes watching it. But I don't know.
I would agree with that too, honestly. I mean, like again, if they're literally, if you go back through what we just described, that's the whole film that we've now described here. There are three actual fight scenes. There is the one with the brother on television. There is the underground fight in the warehouse, and there's the final fight. If you cut back on the blood a little bit, you don't really lose anything out of any of those fights. And the only other thing in there that would be anywhere near R rated is swearing. And you
Yeah,
could have certainly cut back on that too. So yeah, I think that this could have been way more accessible as a PG-13 film. But I guess maybe they thought that you needed to make it R-rated to make it more alluring. I don't know. It's in a weird gray area with that because it's not so extreme that an R rating is necessary, but it is an extreme subject matter, so maybe they thought they needed to be R-rated regardless.
true, fair. I mean, I can see why, but I think the takeaway at the end of the day when you see a film like this, or if you're wanting to go see this film, just know Russell Crowe does jack shit in this.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, Russell Crowe is basically there to talk. He talks. He moves around in very limited capacities because he is a disabled character. He prays at a shrine for a very brief amount of time. I guess there's your little representation of Asian culture, even though no Asian people are actually represented in that. So yeah, there really is not much that you get out of Russell Crowe aside from a couple of instances of him acting because he is an actor.
Yeah,
As far as the main character, I thought Daniel McPherson is a likable guy. When you said the Volk comparison, like I do see that. And if that's who he was kind of basing his like portrayal on, because he does have sort of a buoyant like nature to him when he's not in a fight capacity. He can get himself to the right point when it is fighting. So I was pretty okay with all of that when it came to him. Yeah, I'd say that the side characters are somewhat weak in this film. Uh, and yeah, I mean, and again, the story itself is really just a bit of a hodgepodge with a couple of little twists that are somewhat unique to this, but not so satisfying that it makes it like, wow, this is a must see film.
I this one, I pleasantly enjoyed it. I was watching it with mostly a straight face. I wasn't, actively just fucking into it. It's not the greatest film of all time. It's not the best action film that you've seen. It's not the greatest narrative, but it is a fun time to get out and go to the theater and see a movie. I think one, if I'm here to promote mixed martial arts, guys, this is a mixed martial arts movie. I think you guys should go see it.
Well,
But I
so okay,
mean,
I mean, then
yeah,
you bury the lead, but let's do our wrap things here then.
okay.
So, as a film, what would you rate this film?
As a film, gosh, the narratives could have been better. There was a lot of stuff that they as a film, I'm gonna give it a 6. I'm gonna give it a 6.
Yeah, 6 seems about right to me too as a film by itself. I thought that from a fighting fan perspective, like some of the details in the fight world elements made me like okay, but like as far as like an actual just like watch a movie goes, yeah, I mean, I don't even know, man. I mean, maybe a 5.5 might even be okay for me for this one. And maybe I'm being a little bit overly critical, perhaps. But I just thought that they could do a lot more with what this was. And again, you also have to take into consideration we watch a lot of MMA related films, so I'm like, I need a little bit more out of it, perhaps even from a movie perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to make the MMA perspective elevated. I need the movie elements to be more, and I don't really think that I got too much out of this in that regard. I thought it was essentially somewhat forgettable, to be perfectly honest. Like, so yeah, I think I'm gonna go with. I'll be generous and give it a 6 too, but I think that is being somewhat generous, and a 5.5 would also be acceptable.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I think it's unfortunate that before you watch this movie, you get to see the trailers for some mixed martial arts movie that looks pretty fucking sick named The Furious.
oh, dude.
Because I couldn't stop thinking about some of the shots that I saw there, and I was like, "Man, how are they gonna compete? What am I gonna see in this movie that makes me think not about that, but about this?" And unfortunately, there really wasn't that kind of deal.
The fact that there's even a cage in Furious, and then seeing this film, I was like, yeah, I can't wait to review that one. So
100%.
yes, you are. Yeah, I'm with you on that. So all right. So that being said, then as an MMA film, what would you rate this film?
As an MMA film, does it give you an idea of what it's like to be a mixed martial artist at the highest level? No. Does it showcase you a lot of skills and maneuvers that you would see in professional mixed martial arts? Yes. Is it the best camera work? No, but it is still showcasing you what you would see in the professional version of this. It did a great job showcasing fouls and flagrants. We did not actually stay in the final fight, but there was a part where our character put his arm over the cage, and Herb Dean said, "Hey, get your arm out of there." And I was like, that's a stupid little inclusion, but fuck it. I love it. I mean, you did, that is true. The random things happen, and, you got the eye poke, you got him complaining, you got him, the technical submission or whatever, these things are, you would see, and I think as a mixed martial arts film, I didn't love it as but as I break it down, I think this is probably a 7 or an 8. I'm going to give a 7.5 as a mixed martial arts film.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's crazy how often you and I are in lockstep on these things. Because yeah, I would give it I'd give it an 8 as far as a mixed martial arts film. Honestly, I thought that the aside from the speed of it, I thought that the actual portrayal of the fighting was pretty good. That especially really mostly in the final fight is what you're getting the most out of when it comes to that. So I got to base a lot of it on that. But yeah, I thought that was really good. I thought that for a fight person, the little minor twists and turns that the story takes within like the stuff with the commission and things like that. I thought that that was interesting. I thought that that granted some of the unbelievable elements did take me out of it a little bit, but like as far as like a modern portrayal of an MMA fighter and what that world encompasses, I thought that it was a pretty good representation of that overall. I thought that if they had applied the quality of the mixed martial arts elements to a better completed package, it could have been a really good film. But if you average those two together, it still does not equal out to be a completely satisfying experience to me. So that yeah, I guess that's where I land with that. I do think it is a good portrayal of interesting elements in mixed martial arts, and like I said, it's very rare in mixed martial arts films, based on what we have reviewed and what we'll continue to review, that you just get the guy who you think should win and deserves to win the whole thing to just actually do it. So cool for that subversion, I suppose.
Yeah.
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 So
No, absolutely. I was gonna say, I mean, even when you talk about the way that he wins, I mean, flash knockouts do happen, guys. I mean, if you want to go a step to realism, I mean, we've seen people lose for 3 rounds and win by knockout in the when they shouldn't, kind of deal. It's not the best ending, but it is the ending that happened, and it's something that has happened in real life. So it's not like you could be like, oh, that's the sword and the stone moment. I don't know, but like this one, it works.
yeah, and I also hadn't said this up until this point. I do want to make this a very brief note. Luke Hemsworth, like you've been calling like the discount Brad Pitt or whatever. Like I can see that as the portrayal there. I think he's actually not a bad actor, and I think as well, the note that I had in my mind as I was watching him act, as he gets older, he is going to be able to have like a lot of like really good character actor roles. Like I think that like because he was basically a character actor in this. I mean, like you're
Mhm.
not like a crazy character, but like he's playing the role of like an agent, so he sort of had that air about him of this like somewhat sleazy businessman. I liked him in that role, and I thought that like applying that like in a different, maybe better film, like I think that there is a good application of Luke Hemsworth. So keep an eye out for Luke Hemsworth in like other movies where like he could play a character like that or something. I think that there's more and better for that guy, based on how he acted in this film. So I just wanted to put that out there before we closed everything out. But either way, all of that being said, would you recommend Beast, Chase?
I definitely think people should go see Beast, because if you have been keeping up with the channel and you have seen all the other films that we have reviewed and you have gone down the list and kept up with them, this is a breath of fresh air in a sense that you see a lot of similar stuff, but then you also see things that diverge into a different manner. Don't take too much into consideration with the title. It has absolutely nothing to do with the film. Beast means nothing in this movie. So there you go. There's your tidbit. It could have had any title. but Beast is what it is, and I think you should go see it.
Um, this is a tough one for me. I would say for a general audience, no, I would not recommend this film. I don't think that this is an entirely satisfying viewing experience. I would say for an MMA fan, I think that if you have watched all, like if you're familiar with all the films that we have reviewed on MMA on film, like if you're that level of an MMA media fan, then you should see it to have it in your repertoire of films that you have seen, and you can get a little bit of an enjoyment out of some of the differences between this and other MMA related films, perhaps, because there are a couple of those differences that we went over that do make it somewhat unique and somewhat satisfying in that. But overall, the entire package, that's why the discrepancy between what I rated it as a film and what I rated as an MMA film is so vast, is because I don't think that it's a great movie. I think that it is an interesting MMA film for MMA fans, especially if you are familiar with One Championship. Seeing what you know about the actual product versus what you see here is interesting. There is enough interesting elements to it from an MMA fan perspective to warrant seeing it at least once. I think that you certainly could wait to see it on video on demand. I don't think that you need to see this in theaters. I think maybe the only thing I would say is that the sound design in theaters does like amplify it a little bit, because it does have some pretty good sound elements at times that immerse you in the story. So seeing it with the big speakers might be cool. But if you don't care about that, or don't think that that's like something that you really like need in your life, then waiting to see this on Amazon is going to be just fine. And if that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that that's my ultimate takeaway, is that for the average viewing audience, I don't think that you need this. There are definitely better MMA films that you could watch than this if you are just trying to get an MMA film in your life and you're not an MMA fan. But as an MMA fan, if you are a hardcore, you should probably see it just so that you're familiar with it.
Yeah, keep up with the Joneses. You know, it's a new movie that's out. Go ahead and see it in theaters. Make sure you go ahead and give the theaters the revenue that they desperately need, so we can have more movies coming out in theaters and we can have a place to go see them. But this movie right here is generic. I mean, if you're the type of person that just goes to the theater and looks at the titles and just picks one and goes to see it, Beast is not the worst option, I would say.
And that brings me right back around to the father and the son that were buying the tickets at the kiosk next to me. I'm like, you probably made an okay choice not to see Beast.
Yeah, yep,
Um,
definitely.
but I also do agree with you on this, in the sense that, yeah, I mean, see movies in theaters, period. Like I
Mhm.
do think that there is a great value and a great something that is going to be severely lacking and missed in our lives if we do not have movie theaters. I hear all the conversation about movie theaters going away, and obviously the viewership and the attendance of the theaters that Chase and I were in is an indication of that. That obviously these things are evolving and shifting, but it would be very sad to me if we did not have movie theaters anymore. So yeah, if you're going to see this movie at all, sure, go see it in theaters, I guess. But see, maybe pick a different movie to see in theaters and then see this one on VOD. I don't know. Either way, support movie theaters and watch this one with the knowledge that we've now given you.
Yeah, 100%. This was not the worst time I had.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was the worst time I had either. I definitely never felt that it was dragging at any point. It's a 2-hour film, and I thought it moved pretty well. So, I mean, it was not an unenjoyable viewing experience, but as far as a satisfying one, that's where I kind of like a little shaky on.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, so I guess then that would be about it. Chase, any final thoughts on this thing?
No, I think that's it. I'm really glad that we got to watch it last night, you know, the day before it officially released, and then we got to release the review the day of the release date, or whatever you want to say. So I'm very happy we got to do this.
Same here, absolutely. I hope that us jumping around and not being 100% lockstep with all of the plot details was not too much of a hassle to sit through and listen. Hopefully you're able to follow along with the basics of all of this. If you see the film, obviously you will have a better understanding of everything that we're talking about. So maybe watch that and then come back and watch this one again if you'd like, whatever the case may be. Also very glad that we got to do it for you guys. So thank you very much for watching. Let us know what you want us to review on MMA on film in the comments below. Of course, we are going to be picking our next film at some point in the near future. Bloodsport is out now. The edited version of Bloodsport is out on the Yama channel, youtube.com/@YamaShow. YamaShow.com for all of your merchandise needs. And of course, youtube.com/@CP Smalls for all of Chase's streams and videos as well. So That being said, everybody, thank you very much for hanging out with us. We appreciate you for this installment of MMA on Film. And now the actual ending, as always. Guys, appreciate you. I know we had a couple people in the chat. Always appreciate you
Sarah,
guys.
Checkmate, TJF, Meat Rocket, and Bloomis. Appreciate you guys for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are awesome. Thank you for hanging out with us for this one. Yeah, I mean, let us know, you guys, especially the people who hang out with us in the Discord and all that kind of stuff. If you see it, let us know what you think. Definitely leave comments on the videos and stuff. Letting us know your thoughts and everything, and we will catch up with you guys for more discussion about it and all of the other stuff that we're going to do on MMA on Film. So, yeah, any final thoughts, Chase?
I can't wait to do more, guys. Keep giving us requests and make sure to let us know what you want us to watch next.
All right. Sounds good to me. Well, you guys have a great rest of your day. Oh, also, I'm going to be back live tonight for Gamebred Bare Knuckle MMA if we can find the live link. We're still trying to figure out where this thing is airing. As you know, I'm a big fan of Gamebred MMA. Bare Knuckle MMA is one of my favorites, if not my most favorite version of mixed martial arts, the truest to street fighting that I think that you're going to get in a cage. So we're going to try to sort that out. I'll see if I can get that information for you. I'm going to edit this video into video form here in just a few minutes. So I will catch up with you a little bit later in the day. Have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your evening thereafter. And as always, fight on.
Game.